At their house, it was really good. It was kind of, it was unbelievable that was the house that we got sent.
That is.
Yeah. Football guys, you know, I mean, they. Not a lot of house.
And I think they're dated anyway, but they're not being used again, even if they weren't dated, so. 8 years will be quite enough.
I purposely wore a jacket just thinking, okay, it's gonna be cold in here.
Share the joy with.
And then I started thinking, well, the sun's gonna be through here and
Yes, that's exactly right.
I'm down here.
oh, you do?
Long sleeve shirt.
I don't either. Well, usually I have like silk underwear when I ride my motorcycle, you know, because it would keep the cold off of me.
You guys see the twin from the post? Was it, yeah. They do my favorite.
Huh?
I don't think I have anything to make anybody crazy.
Oh, cool.
I say.
Nail biter. Yes.
It was worth it. Well, this is.
Yes.
Just.
Hello, Shelby. Great. How are you?
Good. Not quite great.
Mr. Ogilvy, did you say June 14th?
It is. Would you like to start a minute early?
We should be playing the fights on.
Usually Ken sprinting across.
I told
She
Mary,
already had time to get her coffee.
told Mary I had two choices, change or be on time. I opted for be on time. We're in yoga pants.
Glad you're here.
Big chaotic.
Is
chaotic
every
life.
day is chaotic for you, isn't
Pretty
it?
much. I keep thinking I'm gonna get that under control, but we aren't there yet.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and call the regular board meeting of the Butler Community College Board of Trustees to order. We'll start, if you don't mind, with the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Mary Martha.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next item is approval of agenda. One thing we are going to ask to extend the executive session to include some discussion on negotiations. And so probably 45 minutes there instead of just the 15 that's shown. Are there any other changes to the agenda? No. Well, goodness.
First time ever, right?
I moved that we approve the agenda.
We need an amendment to no time difference, or since there's still an exec session, we just know 45 minutes when we go into it.
The motion actually states that it will include discussion about negotiations and the time.
I wouldn't think we need to amend the agenda either.
It's
Happy
because
to-
exec session's already on there. I think because you're stating it as a motion when you go in that it's been extended, you'll be okay.
Okay,
I would move we accept the agenda as presented.
And-
okay. Oh, we're moving. This isn't gonna be any,
Okay, trustee Good.
any
Yeah.
black deal.
Trustee Brungart.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly.
Yes.
Trustee Hueslick.
Yeah.
Trustee Shearer.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, next is recognitions.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here so I can sit in front of my microphone. You folks have your magazine in front of you. And so we have Ella Boozer and we have Amy Hornbacher with us. They together produced this great magazine that highlights the happenings in our arts, digital media and communications department. And so I saw it today for the very first time and it's really cool. So Ella, thank you. And
Thank
Amy,
you.
Thanks for your leadership. Is it gonna be a continuing publication?
It is. We have one that's been about come out, one before spring break and then one after spring break. But thank you all for being a part of Butler. As a student here at Butler, I enjoyed my time. I'm already dreading graduating from here. Because it means that I have to leave, this program, maybe. But thank you all.
Where are you going next?
That is yet to be determined. If anyone has any suggestions, let me know. I do have siblings that are at KU, so
Rock chalk.
yeah, Rock Chalk. No, K-State, so that's all they use. You guys are great.
Thank you. Congratulations. Good job. Very good. Thanks.
Okay, we have a couple of public comments. So the general public is welcome to address the Board of Trustees under the public comment section of the regular board meeting agenda. Public comment should be germane to the business and activities of the Board of Trustees. The public is also welcome to address the Board of Trustees during the public comment portion of any special meeting agenda, but the public comment at the special meeting should be related to an item agenda of that special meeting. Personnel issues are prohibited from public comment. The board chairperson will ask visitors wishing to make brief comments to identify themselves and the topic they are wishing to address. If several members of one group or organization wish to speak to the board concerning the same item, the board chairperson may ask the group to identify a single spokesperson. A time limit of 5 minutes has been set for each recognized member or spokesperson of the audience to speak to the board. The board will take no action during the public comment period of the board meetings. However, it will take the matter under deliberation and, if appropriate, direct the president to follow up with a written response and report at the next regular board meeting. So we had two people that had called ahead. Robert Carlson first. Over here. Okay. Sure this mic's on.
I turned it on.
It looks
Okay,
like
thank
it's on. About, what was it, 4 months ago, I believe there was a question asked that you'd like to hear what faculty are doing in the classroom.
Yes.
So I have put together, I'm going to probably not do a very good job of it, but I'll try my best. Have to take the glasses off to read. Larry Friesen, Engineering Concepts, uses a computer program to help build a model of the catapults. And they get to change the parameters of that model. And then once they get satisfied with the model, they get to use hands-on and make their own catapult out of PVC pipe, which is kind of a unique characteristics, and they test their model. In marketing, he asked not to be named, but he works with nonprofit organizations. The classes learn about that organization, and then his class puts together a marketing program that they present to this group. Some of the places that he has done was Family Life Center in Butler County Safe House, the El Dorado Chamber of Commerce, Kansas Oil Museum, Butler County Farm Bureau, and the Coots Museum. Janice O'Cal, actually in her classes, the county have set up an escape room, if I remember right. And she can answer more details about that if she chooses to. Noreen Templin does the stock market game with her classes. Let's see. Danny Matterin in physics is connected with NASA, so he's able to bring some of those concepts into his classes in physics and help them with problem solving. I know there's two other faculty members deal with NASA, but I couldn't think of them right off the cuff. Ann Gillis in physics, when they're talking about physics too, capacitors, she brings in the EMT and their defibrillator so they can demonstrate how the capacitor works with the defibrillators and they bring in, don't want to call them dummies, but models, mannequins, so they can test them on.
No student volunteers.
Student volunteers, yeah. And I know even in the physics department, we have a program that we can set up a 2-point EKG. It's not very accurate, but at least it gives the students an idea how it functions. Physics 1, we get to build rockets. And in physics 2, they build AM/FM radios or AM radios. So they actually learn some skills of soldering, which is pretty much a lost art. What was it? Finals week on Monday, we had a breakfast. You've never seen at 10 p.m. You've never seen so many kids love bacon. But I mean, it's amazing. Many in this room were there to serve that. I believe about 20 people, but Dr. West actually provides a karaoke opportunity for them during that opportunity, and the students go nuts. It's about the best way to put it. And then there's times where he sets up his radio classes outside the union where they give away ice cream and hot dogs, but to get to talk and engage with the students. And that's a pretty neat thing that he does there. The fine arts, I know this year, the first week, and I missed it, did a talent show. And I understand that it was a success because they get to demonstrate to their students what kind of talents that they bring to the classroom. I know we have faculty that like to attend some sporting events. I myself try to go when I have a student in that. Fine arts events. We have faculty that are involved with the foundation and donating money for scholarships. Now I'm outside of the classroom, but I think to me, outside of the classroom is just as important. 2 weeks ago, we had 300 middle school students learning about different careers. I know the fire science was represented there in EMT, and I believe there's a few others. What was it? Friday, which I missed, we had a career day with 200 students. There was 50 so faculty and staff that were involved with that administration. Sorry, I couldn't be there. I was with my dad. The other thing I've also learned, my dad had septic bypass 3 weeks ago, and I got to see our nursing faculty working straight with the nursing students at that particular hospital. It was kind of amazing.
Yeah.
To watch them work together. He's in the hospital again in Kingman. Actually, the PA, there's a former student of Butler.
Wonderful.
So, I mean, former students, I got a student that emailed me that student, Missouri, science technology. This spring he has an internship in Utah with Tesla. And it's like, wow, I mean, you don't hear about things like that. Yesterday, I got an email from another student that she's graduated. She just got accepted into medical school at KU and also UNO, University of Nebraska, Omaha. She's trying to go to KU. So, I mean, and I have a whole list of things that students are doing. I had a student email me. I wrote a letter to go to Dublin. He got accepted into Dublin, not pharmacy school, but a vet school. So the students I work with are mainly vets. To me, it's not about what I do in the classroom. It's what the students do outside the classroom, where they go. So,
But what do you do in your classroom?
well, like today we did saponification, which is a reaction where we broke up an ester. So in the world I live in, we make soap. We could have made soap. We chose not to. I mean, because I don't want to clean up the mess, the grease and stuff like that. So, but anyhow, those are things that I know that are going on, and I'm just probably the tip of the iceberg. I can't go to Augusta without running into a pharmacist that's a former student of mine, Andover, a former student of mine. She also does, flag team and coaches swimming in the summertime. To me, those are important, what those students, former students are doing to the class. I know my time is up.
Cadavers. Do we dissect cadavers here at Butler?
I believe that class is still in place.
And what class is it?
I think it's a cadaver class.
Oh, is it?
It's in biology. That's outside of my realm. I teach chemistry and
Right.
physics. I've been here 34 years and I enjoy every minute of it. I will have to say, I am getting tired. I need your guys' help. When you guys are out in the community, help me recruit students, please. Be a positive influence and try to bring them in,
We're
man.
responsible.
So
Sure.
anyway, thank you very much for your time. My 5 minutes are up. I heard the buzzer. I have to leave because I'm on call with my family. My dad's still in the hospital, so I want to
For
look
your
rude,
dad.
but I got to go. Have a great day.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you.
And our next comments come from Rhonda Thomas.
See one here. What? Okay, well, if we see her show up, we can
Go back.
add her back in. Yeah.
Okay, we'll move on to standing reports, Student Government Association report by Emily. Oh, we have someone else. Okay, sorry. Just give us your name and is that all, just the name?
My name is Christine Estes, and I'm a professor of economics here, and I'm going on my 18th year. I live in Augusta, and I lived in Andover previously, so I have been in Butler County over 20 years. And Robert Carlson is a hard act to follow, but I teach my students about the consumer price index and inflation and the cost of living and how to adjust wages, and the present value and the future value is connected by the interest rate and inflation and the national debt and the budget deficit and the 7 brackets of the income taxes. So I don't think my class is as fun as Robert's because they leave all sad and depressed, but we're learning things. So I'm here to address you today because I believe very strongly that the policy that has been enacted of not giving the COLA award to the full-time faculty and professional employees only because we aren't finished with the negotiation process is pay discrimination. I'm very unhappy about that. I feel that currently the board passed the budget with the 6% or 6.1, whatever it was, in the budget. The money is here. You have it. The money is earning interest. We are losing purchasing power. A cost of living adjustment is not a merit raise. It is not earned. The least performing employee who does the minimum for their job receives it. The highest performing employee receives it. This is the government sector, and this is how we do this, is the outside forces are affecting the cost of living. I buy the same gas, I buy the same hamburgers, I buy the same things in Butler County that my coworkers do, but they've been awarded a cost of living adjustment because they are not part of the professional employees under the association. I think this is retaliation, being told that you will receive it if you assign an agreement that we aren't ready to sign. The negotiation process must be respected, and it's still in the process. It's disparate treatment of employees to give some a COLA and not others. My 4 years in the Air Force, I cannot imagine if the Department of Defense passed a budget and allocated a cost of living adjustment for the military, but didn't give it to the Air Force because maybe they want a plane. I can't imagine the state of Kansas passing a budget to allocate funds to education and saying, these are the funds for the community colleges, but not Butler until you agree to this. I can't imagine when I lived in Andover and I had the great privilege of serving on the Andover City Council, and I sat in your chairs and I was in charge of tax dollars, that I would authorize the city administrator to give cost of living adjustments to everyone except the police because maybe they wanted a new car. This is unfair treatment. And by standing here before you today, I am informing the college of my complaint for pay discrimination, retaliation, disparate treatment, and quid pro quo that I feel is happening. The negotiations about the COLA have ceased. We've agreed. There's no further discussion on it. It is simply being used to get us to agree to something. I think it's unfair that we're using millions of dollars of federal money, GI Bill money, Pell Grant money, student loan money, Butler County taxpayer money, state of Kansas taxpayer money, and we are preventing one group of employees who are doing the same work as other groups of employees to not receive a COLA that has nothing to do with anything I do at work. I cannot change the price of gas. I can't change anything. What really is unfair is the adjunct instructors are being paid more than the full-time instructors who teach overload. That is the same work at the same college during the same time, during the same inflation, and being paid separately. Right now, my two male counterparts that are adjunct instructors teaching two classes have the 6% raise in their pay. I've been here, more experience, more of a course load. My two overload classes in the master agreement says you will be paid at the adjunct rate. The adjunct rate is 6% higher. I am not receiving that 6%. Additionally, giving us a retroactive pay raise in the future, I just got done teaching my class. $100 today is not worth $100 in 8 months. The Bureau of Labor Statistics came out today and said inflation in January was higher than expected, and it expected to continue. I asked the board to stop this policy and to issue the COLAs and let the continuation of the negotiations go on. The other items have nothing to do, but this is causing intentional economic harm. Thank you for listening, and I respect your service and the millions of dollars that you are in charge of. Thank you.
Okay, are there any other individuals wishing to make public comment? If not,
Madam
then
Chair, can I ask a question to Dr. Kroll to clarify something? It was my understanding the association declared impasse not only on due process, but also on all of the pay aspects of the contract.
That's correct.
So we don't have an agreement to pay anything right now because it's all at impasse.
It's all been agreed that it's part of fact finding. Yes.
And the
correct.
association disagreed with the fact that it was tentatively agreed upon to begin with. And we're
Because
back to
we
fact
didn't-
finding on that point.
Because we didn't put it in writing. That's correct. Yes, you're
Thank you.
correct.
okay. Standing reports, Student Government Association report. Not here. Okay, operational staff report, Stacy Terry, is that correct?
Right, I'm kind of short, so I gotta break it down. My name is Stacy Terry. I am the Vice President of Ops Staff. Our report is we are gearing up for the silent auction, which will be held in March at IDD. Last year we did record sales. We're hoping to match or exceed that this year. Our next meeting is this Thursday at 3 p.m. in Andover. And that's all I have. Any questions? No. Well, thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stacy.
Professional employees report, Terry.
I'm a day early with these. I hope you don't mind. You're
I
right.
hope there's food in it.
You're right.
There's,
Thank you.
That wasn't the only thing I was going to talk about. I suppose I should say something about Valentine's Day, but I really don't know what. Last Friday, the Philosophy Club met and discussed the idea of love for over an hour. I don't choose the topics. This was just what they wanted to talk about. And it was interesting, and I don't get involved in their conversations. I just listen. What was fascinating was it didn't take long for the conversation about the concept of love to move on to questions of trust and the relationship between those ideas. And if you take my philosophy class, we'll even talk about how all of these ideas and concepts seem to relate to one another. But it did remind me of things, and I want the board to know that the professional employees want to trust you. We want to trust that you respect us as teachers, the work that we do, and our fears and concerns. We want to trust that you're no happier about where we're at in negotiations than we are. And we want to trust that you want to find a way to settle this contract sooner rather than later, just as we do. So happy Valentine's Day. And I hope you guys go out and have a great dinner tomorrow night or something.
Could I ask one question? I'm probably out of line. You
Yes,
guys
trustee.
Keep talking about due process. Does that, as near as I can tell, the guy even spoke last month that it is currently in your contract. And you do have it currently. And if state law changes, you're still going to have it for another year.
We'll have it, yeah, we'll have it for another year, at which time we'll be negotiating for something that we no longer have. And quite frankly, there is no sense that the people across the table from us would be interested in giving us due process. And that's why it's so important for us to have it now. We don't want to be in the position of having to beg just for basic job protections. And thank you for asking that, because that really does get to where everybody is at.
It seems to be presented all the time that you don't currently have due process and you're being denied it, but you do currently have it.
We have it as long as we have a cooperative legislature. And as our K-12 colleagues found out a few years ago, the legislature can surprise you sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Board Finance Committee report, Mary Martha or Dave?
Let's see, we had lovely Kit and Carrie talking to us. Everyone has received the board report from, what's the name of it? The company Forbes now. There were a few variances on academic support. We're on page 174.
In your board book. In your board book, not the audit.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, I'm not in that. So it doesn't go that way.
I wouldn't be able to tell you much on that one. 174 under academic support. We've had a few variances there. And the physical plant operations and also the institutional support. So those three categories, very few variances, but there was an increase in property insurance. And in the budget, our utility budget had stayed the same. This year we increased it. So that has a little bit of a variance in that. Health insurance has increased for employees. And so there's 900,000 in the budget. So those are the top three variances in there. Any questions on the monthly statement? If not, Kent will explain in depth the Forbes report.
Yeah, do we have about 3 or 4 hours to go in depth on this? So I'll give you a brief overview. The main thing is the auditors give us an opinion on the basically that we present the financial information in accordance with government standards. And it's we received again a clean opinion, what they call a clean opinion. So there are a couple of findings that I want to mention, but overall, the financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with governmental standards. And I'd like to take just a minute to recognize Carrie Potter and her staff and Carrie's not here right now, but she and her staff put in a lot of time and really do a great job in getting the audit information for the financial part of this to the auditors. And I'd also like to recognize Heather Ward and her staff for the financial aid portion of it. The financial aid is terribly involved and highly regulated through government regulations. So they do a really good job with that. We did have a couple of findings which I want to mention. They're not terribly significant. But on page 80 and 81 of your audit, there is a mention that the college did not get all of its required HERF reports posted to our webpage. Of course, HERF is all the money we received from COVID. And there were some regulations that every time you made a report, it had to be posted to our webpage within 10 days. There were a few of those reports that we didn't get posted for like 12 or 13 days. We were 3 or 4 days late. And so that's noted on page 80 and 81. No question costs. Whenever you have federal findings, it's important whether you have question costs or not. So there's no question costs here. I don't see anything beyond the fact that it's in the report here. I don't think there'll be any follow-up. The other thing, and this is reported on page 79, and we had mentioned this to the board earlier. We'd had a heads up earlier in the year that this was going to be a finding, and it has to do with the way we reported depreciation since 2018 on our capital assets. In other words, the buildings and equipment of the college. And on page 13, if I won't really ask you to go there, but if you want to go there, you can see that we have about $55 million of capital assets. That's net of depreciation. So that's our buildings mostly on campus. That's not the market value. Now, the market value of our buildings is more like $150,000, but this is the depreciated book value of our buildings. In 2018, we had some turnover in accounting, and they talk about it, how we depreciate 50% of all new assets in the year in which it's purchased. And there were some errors there in how we did that. And it misstated our assets by 1.2 million compared to that 55 million of total assets. We didn't catch it, and the auditors didn't catch it for a couple of years. So we're going back and correcting that now, and that's what that finding is. It doesn't affect our operating budget at all, so, or the legal budget. That's on a cash basis. We don't deal with accrual or depreciation issues there at all. But we just want to point out those are some errors, and we did. There is a note on each of those in the audit. Other than that, it's totally clean opinion. I think we're quite pleased with that. We've given you the copies. We basically accept the audit. So there won't be any motion or anything coming up for you to need to accept that. But if you want to take time, look at it, you have questions over anything in the audit, get back to us and we'd be happy to review those and get back with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kent.
We'll pass, but we'll go back. Yes. So, you're here.
Okay.
The prop.
Oh, anyone who brings a prop ought to.
Are those real?
It's silky.
Okay, got it.
Thank you for.
Okay, for public comment, the general public is welcome to address the Board of Trustees under the public comments section of the regular board meeting agenda. Public comments should be germane to the business and activities of the Board of Trustees. The public is also welcome to address the Board of Trustees during the public comment portion of any special meeting agenda, but the public comment at the special meeting should be related to an agenda item of that special meeting. Personnel issues are prohibited from public comment. The board chairperson will ask visitors wishing to make brief comments to identify themselves and the topic they are wishing to address. If several members of one group or organization wish to speak to the board concerning the same item, the board chairperson may ask the group to identify a single spokesperson. A time limit of 5 minutes has been set for each recognized member or spokesperson of the audience to speak to the board. The board will take no action during the public comment period of the board meetings. However, it will take the matter under deliberation and if appropriate, direct the president to follow up with a written response and report at the next regular board meeting. So there you go.
Okay, thank you. I did submit my form.
Yes, you did.
What was your name again? I'm sorry.
Rhonda Thomas. Yeah, my name is Rhonda Thomas. Do you want the flower in front of your face? Of course, of course. Yeah, there you go. All right. My name is Rhonda Thomas and I'm a Butler Community College accounting and business professor. Since accepting my full-time faculty position in 2016, my office and primary course load has been here on the El Dorado campus with at least one class per semester at McConnell Air Force Base or Andover campus. Prior to becoming full-time, I began my teaching experience as a Butler adjunct instructor in 2006. I worked a short time with the Butler Foundation in 2004 and attended Butler as a non-traditional student from 1997 to 2000. Rightly so, I'm proud to be a full-circle Butler Grizzly who exemplifies the power of education and who is truly blessed to be an educator of voluntary college students. My educational mantra is, if I can, you can. And my students hear this frequently from me. The reason I'm here today is to extend an olive branch to the Butler Community from the Butler Community College Education Association to the Butler Board of Trustees and the Butler administration. In fact, we're offering a whole olive tree to represent our respect and gratitude for your leadership in education and especially our institution. Since ancient times and even on the Great Seal of the United States, the olive branch signifies the ambition to resolve conflict and create peace between differing views. Therefore, we're taking the initiative to advance beyond the ever-growing strife and polarization of our current professional employee contract impasse. Pure and simple, it's time we come together as one Butler to be able to build back faith and trust in one another. One of the best ways to start is to recognize common ground that actually places us on the same side of the educational tug-of-war rope. A significant common denominator among us is the fact that we represent the success of public education. The invaluableness of public education ensures an equal opportunity to fully participate in the economy, our democracy, and our society. I would estimate many of us have earned our education on a public level, and now we earn our livelihood as local government employees of a state-funded community college. To fully endorse public education, we must uphold and value one of its foundation cornerstones involving due process for educators just as strongly. Now that our professional employee impasse has spanned several months, I'm sure most of you are fully understand the many reasons for our collective bargaining request, especially those of you who are former educators. So I will not walk us down that road again. But my final thought is this. Our Butler educators, advisors, and counselors have well earned and deserve the respect of permanent contractual due process with no expiration date. This is exactly why the Kansas Teacher Due Process Law was repealed. The opponents wanted decentralization decision-making and intended us to fight for ourselves on a local level. Thank you for receiving our olive tree, and we'll await your response. Thank you. I have a question. Rhonda, I've been receiving the advocate.
Okay.
Are all the trustees receiving it too?
No.
I think everyone, Terry, is there any way that all the trustees can receive the advocate?
I'll talk to them. Our secretary.
I'll go ahead and forward the copy on then. This one. And Emily's here too.
Oh.
That's your report.
Hi, Emily. Good afternoon, guys. You're okay.
Hello, I'm Emily Hernandez, and I'm the Student Government Association President, and I'm here bringing our SGA report. So we kicked off our spring semester with Welcome Back Week. The January 17th, SGA sponsored free popcorn and pop at our men's and women's basketball games. We estimated about 50 students. The 18th, we had game night with Hot Cocoa, and they had board games as TV playing as well. And we had 20 students attend. The 19th, we had free movie night at Cinema 6. 30 students attended. This past Sunday, February 11th, we hosted SJ's first ever Super Bowl watch party where we served pizza and pop. We had about 35 students show up, like come and go, all that kind of stuff. Our main focus for this event being students who weren't able to spend it with their loved ones or friends or family, all that kind of stuff, had a community to come and spend it with their Buco Nation. And we had a great turnout. It was so much fun. Go Chiefs. Some up and coming events. We have this Thursday, February 15th, we have our Sweetheart Dance, where we'll be having a DJ, and Great Western Dining will be making light snacks. We will also be having like photo booths, a raffle where they will be giving out like a flat screen TV, two $50 gift cards, and more. The 23rd, we have ice skating night at the Wichita Ice Center, and they just students, of course, get free admission. And the 28th will be our pink out at our men's and women's basketball game against Pratt. And students will receive a hot pink Butler long sleeve sponsored by SGA. Is there any questions or comments?
Sounds like fun.
Yes, I'm super excited. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you,
Have a
Emily.
lovely day.
Okay, next we would have the foundation board report.
Nothing to report. The foundation board meets next Tuesday, so I'll have a report in March.
President's report.
Yes, let me find my sheet here. Place in here. Just a couple of things. First on the list, I want to introduce Dr. Peter Linden, who's our new CTE dean. He showed up the first day of PDD, the first day that faculty were back, and he's hit the ground running. So we're excited to have Peter here, and I know he's already making some great connections with people, not only on campus, but within the community too. So welcome. Thanks for being here. Yeah.
Welcome.
Had an email, it's been a week or so ago, I guess maybe about 2 weeks ago. We get updates on from state folks from KBOR about what's happening in adult ed. And I just wanted to share with you a couple of the milestones that they've already hit. And kind of a testament to the great work that's happening in adult ed. This is their Q2 report that's come from KBOR. And already for FY24 program participants, their enrollment's at 300 students in adult ed. This year's enrollment is already 82.87% of last year's, and there's still a portion of the year. Those students can roll in. They don't just enroll at the beginning of a semester. They roll in, throughout the year. And so they're already making great strides there. They posted an impressive 66.3% of participants that have post-tested, which is higher than the current statewide average of 60.79%. So they're doing a great job on their testing. And then we have already 16 participants who've passed all 4 of their GED tests and earned a Kansas State High School diploma. And those are the students that we recognize at commencement and that will walk with our Butler students.
Dr. Kroll, are these also the adult ed students that are in Wichita, like at the Evergreen Center?
At Wichita Indo-Chinese Center, we Evergreen, we don't have folks at Evergreen any longer.
Oh,
but,
no more. Okay.
But we have adult ed. Well, actually, we do adult ed at EDCF, right? And we're on both campuses, and then we have some adult ed opportunities in Wichita at the Wichita Chinese Center, Indo-Chinese Center.
Thank you.
And then Julio already had a shout out. You can keep walking. Sorry. Already had a shout out, but wanted to just say that he sort of stepped in because of a schedule change, and really he and a team really helped organize a fun day in Andover last Friday for about 200 8th graders from Andover Central Middle School. It was noisy over there, I'm sure. But they toured Allied Health and EMT labs. They visited the ambulance. They learned about the Early College Academy. They met with faculty and staff to learn more about the programs that we have. And so we had a number of folks that helped volunteer, but Julio really kind of stepped in, I think, and organized it really.
A lot of work with admissions.
Yeah, admissions and advising folks and
Thank
stuff. But it
you.
was really a successful day. And I asked him if it's going to become kind of a standing sort of thing, and it sounds like that's maybe the plan, hopefully. Great opportunity for those middle school kids. Thanks, Julio.
Thank you.
And then just wanted to let you know that we have visitors on campus today, this week from Kansas Board of Nursing and from ASIN. They're doing their visits for KSBN's here for all the regulatory stuff that they need to do for the nursing program, and ASIN is here for accreditation things. But they're having a good visit. I had the opportunity to meet with them today. I know they've met with a number of different groups, and so it's always good to have them on campus, and think they're getting sort of glowing reports and finding out good things. So that's all I have.
Okay, educational facilities.
Meeting tomorrow, so I'll have more next month.
Okay, now, are you gonna keep going to those?
That's planning on it.
Okay, I won't.
Well, I will.
Thought no one would do it, so I said yes.
No, but we need two representatives from the college. And so I think you and
Is
Dave
Mary
are both.
Martha good? No.
Oh,
Yes, I was going, but I cannot go tomorrow.
okay, got it. All right, I'm sorry. I'm
Okay.
getting behind myself.
Well,
here.
thanks, Dave.
Yeah.
Okay, monitoring report from Arts, Digital Media and Communications, Valerie Herring.
Okay. I took it off, but now I gotta put it back on.
I think, you know what I'm gonna do? I don't know whether it'll help you with my coffee.
There's some air blowing down on
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, there's cold air.
It isn't so much the sun, it's cold air blowing.
It's gonna help me.
That's
I'll bring my sunglasses next time.
This is better now.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that didn't help me.
Good afternoon. My name is Valerie Herring, and I am the Dean of Arts, Digital Media, and Communication. So all the fun things, right? My monitoring report is available to you in your board book, and it's also online. So I perused it again today online. I have included lots of information about things that faculty are doing inside the classroom, outside the classroom, in the community. And I tried to highlight areas of interest that relate to recruitment, retention, scholarship, community service. Talk about faculty that are out and about. They're in the classroom, they're out in the community. Brett Martinez, our instrumental music chair, is at Chaparral High School today. Next week, we start our run of the children's show. And so a lot of the area kids in grade school will be visiting campus to see what I'm told is the final production starring Alvin the alligator. So if you would like to come and say goodbye, we have a public performance, not this Saturday, but next
How long has
Saturday.
Alvin been on the stage? A long time.
A long time, yeah. He's
Oh, we're gonna miss him.
he is an icon. So I have also included some links and pictures in an addendum at the back of my report. So feel free to look at that digital version and click on the links. There are actually 2 full shows available to you. So you can see the 39 Steps and Eurydice. Both were big hits in the theater, directed by Bob Peterson, our theater chair, and Leslie Coates, who is in his 2nd year with us. And I am available to answer questions. Yes, Mary Martha.
Just saw where you were offering a job position for a dance instructor. Is Valerie, is she
So,
gonna keep dancing?
yes,
Okay, good.
yes. If you look at our enrollment numbers in our division, the dance numbers are particularly low in terms of students who have committed to that major. Looking at trends in fine arts education, I think that we're going to see more interest in dance as it pertains to not only vocal music, but also theater. So music theater, we're working on a pathway for music theater. Students are already performing with Wichita Music Theater and the symphony. So, and with some of the colleges in our area that have shuttered some of their programs, I think we have some real opportunity to grow programs and to bring those students into Butler and, maybe even recruit some faculty. So yes, my dream scenario is to add a full-time dance instructor because we don't have a dedicated dance instructor.
I'm just so proud of Stevie Mack being on Broadway.
Yes. She will be here next week. She's giving a clinic to our headliners. So we have an operating budget like everyone else. We also seek out grants. We work with the foundation. We work with marketing to get our events out and about in the community. And so I think that we're growing our patron base. And we've revived our Friends of the Arts tiered giving program. And so we'll be building some events around Friends of the Arts too. So the faculty recital that we had in January this year, that's going to become a biennial event. So every other year. The music faculty, they don't know this yet, but they will be performing again in January. So all of our performing arts faculty will have an opportunity to perform on the stage. And our visual arts faculty will have their biennial faculty show in the Erman B. White Gallery. So, and in years past, we've had students giving demonstrations on the ceramic wheel. And you guys remember Lonnie Snook, our dear friend. I got to make a drawing of Lonnie one year at an event, and he took it home with him and he put it under the glass on his desk. I mean, things like that.
Yeah,
Seriously. I mean,
yeah.
just like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. It's so meaningful to be part of the community. I grew up in El Dorado. I went to Circle High School. I mean, this is my home. I tell people that Butler is the longest relationship I've had. So, any questions, comments?
First, you should try and see if Stevie could get you a couple of tickets for the Rockettes and auction them off at the auction, the Butler auction.
Yeah.
I know she'd probably do it.
And some of our art faculty have donated to artworks to the auction. So, I mean, we're all in this division. We're all in. So, yeah, you can count on us to keep growing and keep entertaining.
Yeah, great. Thank
Yep.
you.
All right. Thank you. You guys went awfully easy on me.
Oh, yes.
I was gonna say, are we gonna get to see a video?
Yes, it's about 3 minutes. It's a highlight reel, so.
You always end with the song.
And made with Adobe products.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You did kind of hint in here, you could maybe use a little more marketing help. Is that kind of how you phrased it?
Marketing help?
Uh,
Hey, I'll take any help that I can get. So. And I work with marketing. So, yeah, they support us. The little postcard that I put on your vehicle, is one last marketing push, for our event on March 23rd. So these are going on area high school. And admission is also doing some target texting to students that have expressed interest in the visual arts, the theater, music, so. Yeah, we're doing it every year. So. Yeah, so if you know any high schools? that you'd like to- And the little bookmark has all of our events, stage events, and the QR code will take you directly to our box office.
Ah, how nice.
We try to make it easy.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have board strategic discussion and core community.
No, thanks.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Deborah Factor. I'm the CEO of an organization called Youth Core Ministries. We operate a program in Butler County called Core Community, and we want to share briefly with you tonight. I'm going to start by letting Trish share.
Good evening. My name is Trish Seiler and I live in Augusta. I've been there for 13 years now, and I joined Core Community in 2018, and it's completely turned my world around in a great way. I was a victim of domestic violence, and so I became a single mother with 3 kids living in poverty overnight. And this program has turned my whole world around as far as I no longer live in poverty. I am still a single mom, so I'm doing this on my own, and I would not have been able to do it without the program. And so Deb will explain a little more about that.
Core Community was founded in 2015 in Greensburg, Kansas. From our organization, we were the smallest community in the nation to try something like this. We've had tremendous success and have since expanded. So there's the second page you have there is a map. These are all the counties in which we have a Core Community program, and we will be launching 2 more this spring. So our program is about tackling poverty. We believe that many in our communities are struggling, and the root cause is poverty, and it can be solved. That is our belief, and we are solving it. So I have just a quick sheet that shows our current results. Throughout our programs, we've graduated 488 individuals, impacting 566 kids. 79% of our graduates have stabilized their lives, meaning folks who come to the table who are not sure how they're going to pay rent, lights, and how they're going to feed their kids this month. We get them to a place where they know how they're going to take care of those things, and the toxic stress greatly reduces. The whole household is doing better in their stability. 71% of our graduates have increased their income to some level. That collective income increase is now $4.6 million annually. Our families have decreased their welfare assistance to the tune of $250,000 annually. They've paid off $1.5 million in unsecured debts collectively. And we now have seen 20% completely out of financial poverty, and we define that at 200% above the federal poverty guideline. We believe poverty in the state of Kansas is much higher than what the national statistics say. They mark that at 100% of the federal poverty guideline. We're telling you families are struggling well up to 185% of the federal poverty guideline. So our target is really the working poor, individuals that are not on fixed incomes, but are just, they've grown up in generational poverty and they're absolutely stuck. So we're having tremendous success. We have many communities reaching out to us who have interest in launching core community programs, and we are positioned to scale. In fact, we have just stated our new vision is to bring core community to every county in the state of Kansas that would like to have one. So it's a big vision. We hope to accomplish that in 10 years or less. The next couple of sheets just show you when you break down the communities, what those stats look like. And I just want to highlight Augusta. They launched in 2017. They've graduated 37 individuals, impacted 59 children. Their monthly income increase as a group, their participants are making almost $31,000 a month more than when they came to the table. They've paid off over $162,000 in unsecured debt, and they have 13 out of financial poverty. We also mark 84 different things, and I've just kind of given you a highlight here on this sheet. This is specific to Augusta's program. These are barriers that families have trouble breaking through, and we just mark these things. So collectively, we've helped 67 individuals get driver's license in Augusta. It's for obtain state IDs. I'm sorry, I gave you the collective number. That's actually 4. Acquired safe housing, 7. Bought a house, 2. Which home ownership is the beginning of building wealth and great stability for the future and for your children. Tagged and insured personal vehicle, 8. Obtained medical insurance, 8. Obtained a primary care physician, 7. Came unemployed and now is employed, 10. Accepted a promotion, 7. Got a GED, 3. Completed a training program, 2. Started college, 6. Graduated college. That is our collective number. I forget what it is for this. I apologize. Open a bank account, 5. Started eating healthy, 6. Clean and sober. They attribute their sobriety to involvement with our program, 6, and recovered custody of their children, 3. Those are the Augusta numbers. And so Trish has been working with me. She came out of poverty through this program, and she's been working with me to in our considering scaling across the state of Kansas. And she suggested we come here tonight. And so we this summary page, our conviction, we know how to solve poverty, therefore we believe we must. Our dream to take core community into every county in the state of Kansas. Our request to you, up to $100,000 in available scholarship for core community graduates to attend your college. We believe higher education is a key to helping people get the lives that they want. And quite frankly, the cost of education sometimes scares our families away. So if we had scholarship money that was available, if we had someone that wanted to apply here, we would push that across the state of Kansas and encourage that online or actually move here. $15,000 in support of our work in Augusta. We want to grow that program. We want to have a greater impact in Augusta, and your dollars would help us do that. And then $30,000 to support efforts to expand core community in additional communities in Butler County. So we have had interest from El Dorado, Leon, Douglas, and Andover, and we just need some manpower to start working with those communities. We would love to have more than one core community program in this county. We are solving poverty in individuals' lives, and we're helping communities, particularly the middle class, to better understand it, which is a key piece to solving it. Any questions? What's it take to get a program started in a town?
Yeah, so there are 2 models. Model 1 is you have a full-blown program in your community, and we have to start with a champion that wants to work with us, and eventually it's a budget of anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 a year because we raise up staff in your community. So it's primarily staff. A program is a weekly meeting with childcare and a meal. And then we bring our families together and we begin educating them. We say it takes 2 to 5 years for an individual to walk out of financial poverty. The second model is this: if you have an existing program like we do in Augusta, and you have a small town around that maybe doesn't feel like they can raise that kind of a budget, then
then at 20 to 25,000, we can raise up a part-time person in that community. They would actually join Augusta. The participants would join Augusta, but we have a staff person in that community who works with those families the 6 days in between. One of the key things that we're doing is helping identify barriers and helping people break through those barriers. How is this different from Thrive? Yes, so I'm not terribly familiar with Thrive. The basic model is not unique to core community. Many organizations have used it across the United States. The basic model being a weekly program, meals, childcare, bringing people to the table, and eventually bringing middle-class folks to the table. What sets us apart, I observed across the state of Kansas as we were launching, there were 14 circles programs in the state of Kansas. Right now, I believe there's one functioning program. And so I watch these programs die. One of the main reasons is people don't know how to raise money sustainably long-term. Second, they were not getting enough training and equipping to get the success. And third, they didn't know how to manage a nonprofit. And so Youth Corps has created a system in which all three of those wheels are incredibly strong so that there's longevity. If you look on our stats on the programs that are in existence, we have longevity. We're building these programs to be here for a very long time, and it's working. That's what sets us apart. We created it differently.
People who attend, would they be able to make it to Eldoret to take classes or Andover, or would they be able to do it on their phone if it was an online class, or how would they?
I mean, it would be case by case. One of the things that we do is we raise up volunteers and we try to solve problems. So if we have an individual that really wants to go to college, and maybe a vehicle's a barrier, I mean, we wrap around and we try to solve those things. We've helped people get vehicles so that they can start going to a job or they can get to college or whatever they're looking for. If an individual wanted to do school and they just needed a computer, we help with those types of things. We have well over 300 volunteers and we raise up community partners to help solve these issues so that those aren't the things that are stopping people from pursuing their dreams.
So, Tom Borrego is our Vice President of Advancement from the foundation, but his seat is empty.
Oh,
so
okay.
he's not- We need that. So let me speak for the foundation, and I think I'm accurate probably in my statement, and Forrest as a liaison can step in. The foundation's dollars are, most of those scholarship dollars are designated for specific scholarships.
Okay.
So I don't know that they would have the ability to set aside scholarship dollars specifically for folks that are part of core community. They do have scholarships available for Butler County residents and Butler County
Okay.
students. They have scholarships that are available for specific programs, and things like that. And I know that we can connect you with folks from the foundation that can explain the availability of the scholarships certainly better than I can. There's one application that has to be filled out that will give them information, and then what they do is go through their list of scholarships and look to see where the matches are best.
Okay.
So there would be an opportunity through the foundation for folks to apply for scholarships, but they wouldn't have the capacity to set aside, I don't think, scholarships just for you folks. But there would be access.
There would be other avenues.
There would
Great.
be, and so we can connect you with folks out of the foundation.
Okay.
And they can come and talk to you, or you can sit downstairs and visit with them. The other thing that we can do that might help some of your folks is get you connected with our folks in adult basic education.
Okay.
If we need to do that, we can.
Now, is that, I was listening earlier, is that for folks that need to get their GED or their diploma? Okay,
Huh?
great.
Yep, if you've got some folks that
Great.
need that, we can connect you with those folks.
Great.
And then also can connect you with, again, some folks, if you've got some folks that want to enroll in college classes, we
Great.
can sit down and, help walk through, filling out
Mhm.
the FAFSA.
Yeah.
That everybody's,
Yeah.
hearing about now, the shortened, simplified FAFSA. But all of those things we can help create access for your folks, and would be glad to do that.
Wonderful. Thank you.
And we
Thank
have
you.
had people from the college who have come into the second phase of the program, and they've spoke to the different leaders on some of the different options that they might have available through Butler too.
Good.
So
Yeah.
you guys have in a way been a little bit involved from,
Okay.
from one aspect. So yeah.
We'll make sure we get you some specific names and connections. to help
Wonderful.
With that.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay.
I saw a reference online that you meet at one of the churches in Augusta. Is there a faith-based component to the organization, or they just happen to host you and provide space?
So most of our programs are hosted in a church, but that's primarily because it's really one of the best facilities for what we're doing, because we need childcare and a variety of childcare. Youth Core Ministries is itself a faith-based organization. The program of Core Community itself, there is no faith-based component to it. And so all of our curriculums, none of them are faith-based. You might walk into some of them and hear conversations of faith, but that's always driven from the families themselves, because we're trying to create a place where we're solving poverty and all feel welcome. So that's how we've designed it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there a distinction between a scholarship and possibly like tuition waivers?
We'd have to
So we
sort
have books
through
and
that.
fees and all that, but
Yeah, I mean, that would be something that we'd have to sort
Just-
through. Yeah, yeah. Right now, the only tuition waivers that we do are at the high school level for a certain group of classes and stuff, but we could sure visit about that somehow.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to tell you about what we're doing. I really appreciate your time.
Yes,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Is this your best contact? Yeah.
Okay, next topic is the Higher Learning Commission Interim Monitoring Report. We've made a little progress on a letter, a response letter, but we also wanted to talk about the opportunity to go ahead and I think it's on page. No, that's later.
Action items.
Yeah, under action items. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's.
But just want to let you know that we'll be sending you a rough draft of the response. Keep in mind that if you have things you don't want in there, you need to let us know, or if there are things that you need added. I gave you kind of a list last time of just things I thought of, but there were a lot of topics I didn't have an action for. So we'll get that to you here in the next few days. I'll send it through Kim and could I think of your name right there?
Jennifer.
When you get all, this is what happens. But we'll get that out to you then. And we're going to need to have a work session in February. So I don't know when's the most appropriate time to set that, but maybe here tonight before you, so we can check your calendars while we're at it.
We typically have it on the fourth. We've in the past had it on the fourth Monday of the month. So I don't know.
So I know the one time Monday was better for you than Tuesday, and the rest of us have kind of done the Monday.
Monday,
thing. So does that work for you? The fourth Monday of the month? Okay, so let's plan on that, but you'll have a draft before that, and then we'll get together and discuss the points.
Okay, that would be the 26th.
4:30? Same time.
That's fine with me. If everyone else is okay.
I think I already have it on my calendar. I do.
Okay, next, we have Kent is going to talk to us about the 2025 tuition and fee rate recommendations that they've come up with. That's on page 30.
Yeah, this is our preliminary recommendation. We will ask you to approve this recommendation next month. And it's basically no increase in the tuition rates. So we've presented it here to see if you had any discussion on that before we finalize the recommendation for next month's presentation.
I got kind of one thing, reading kind of in the paper and stuff like that, where different colleges are kind of doing stuff for in-county students. Do you think we could look at the possibility of doing stuff for Butler County students?
Let Dr. Carl speak to that.
Yes, we can.
I mean, look at the possibility before we vote on this and stuff like that.
Yeah, we would have to dig into the numbers, we'd have to figure out what students it would apply to, what categories of students it would apply to, and what the potential cost would be, but we can put some information together.
Because Shelby sent out a thing, and different people that you read about, different in Western Kansas and stuff. And I know we're probably not, our numbers are a little bit higher for Butler students, but Butler County specific students, but if there's some qualifier to help with that.
Okay, we'll put some information together. We would have to, get it to you before the, obviously before the March meeting. We could try to see what we have available and ready to discuss maybe at the work session even. So.
But if we got 125,000 credit hours, 20% are from Butler County, that's 25,000 credit hours. You could kind of ballpark it. If you're talking about making lowering tuition, that you're talking about, Dave, or?
Well, even where they're doing free tuition, where some of the counties are doing and I don't know, like, if they're setting a specific number, like, are they setting 300? Are they setting 100? I don't know. The first 100 to apply, or I don't know. I just keep seeing the things. I saw where you sent out a deal on what WSU Tech was doing about offering. I was thinking 300 scholarships, but I don't,
We'll put some information together and share it.
If there was some sort of an incentive plan, maybe,
Well, yeah, certainly there would be an incentive
Or-
if there's no tuition and fees or
Yeah.
reduced, for sure.
I
Yeah.
think Colby was doing free and reduced. They were
Some
doing
of
the
them
same
do.
thing and doing free and reduced.
Yeah.
Enrollees.
Yeah.
And
Madam Chairman.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
Dr.
was just
Carlson.
gonna say, I'd be interested in relation to this year's Butler County graduates.
Yeah, that's
Get
what
them
we
to
would
make
have
a
to do is to
decision
use,
Come here right away instead of.
right.
we would have to use current numbers that we know. And I mean, the number of Butler County High School graduates, the numbers that have come to us, we would have to use numbers that we know and extrapolate from there, but we'll work on it.
I don't want to create a massive project here. I'd be interested if we know, maybe anecdotally, if there's a correlation between student success and free tuition, because I can't help but wonder if taking a student having any skin in the game for their education might impact how much. I just don't know. I wonder whether that's something, and I don't want to task somebody to dig into that, but if we're talking about potentially a reduction in that, I'd be interested to know if there's
Probably some research out there. We'll check and see.
I've said it many times, but I'd be philosophically opposed to giving adults free goodies at the taxpayer expense if they're not willing to pay a certain amount.
Well,
We've done a couple of years ago, we did lower international.
Mhm.
I would like to entertain that idea. If we have so few international students, we could get more. It does bring international culture to Butler for low cost.
I do know that if we're looking at Butler County students, we'll have to put a frame around the student populations rather than probably doing every Butler County student that comes to us, because if we implement something like this, then it falls on admissions and financial aid and accounts receivable to identify those students and institutional research to identify the student population that we're working with. So
Like a
if
high
we
school
launch
grad.
something, if we launch something like this, we probably want to try and launch it with a group that's manageable,
Right.
that we, can work with and understand and see if there are problems or, hitches in processes before we just say, anybody and everybody, so
Right.
that the numbers are
And it,
manageable,
and it
but we'll
seems
put
like
some
most of
information
the
together.
counties are kind of targeting high school graduates.
Right.
To keep them local.
Right. We'll put some information together. So,
I have a possible
Thanks.
question for Ken. We got, I know we raised out of county last year and we did have a decline like we've had before, I don't know how much is attributed to that, but what was the total increase in revenue ballpark for that?
We did,
I'm not asking to raise it again, I'm just curious, because we never really got a straight answer.
we did look at that. I don't remember the exact number. I have that. We shared that information with these.
yeah, but then it was in the budget book.
I
mean-
was just guessing roughly is like a couple $100,000 positive increase over the previous year, but I don't know for sure.
Oh, we'll look up the number and email it to you.
And just my one little nitpick, it says the rate recommendation is not expect to increase or decrease revenue. But if we do have a 2% decrease in enrollment again, we will have a 2% decrease in revenue. The rates stay the same.
Right, it's not a,
Right.
yeah.
I just mean
Yeah,
overall,
right.
that would, yeah.
right, that's independent of the revenue.
Yeah.
Increase.
And Shelby, I talked to some international students here about, I don't know, 2 months ago. Just visited with them and asked them why they came to Butler. And they said it was because our tuition is lower than
We get a lot of
people.
nurses from Africa at our church that live in Eastover. Nursing.
Just in general, so when I do my student forums, each, especially in the fall semester when we're starting, that's one of the things that I ask them in the very first student forum, and across the board, it doesn't matter who the students are. It's access because it's low cost. We keep our prices down and it's affordable. So that's why they're here.
I mean, it'd be nice to got everything at, but just got to pay the bills.
Okay, we'll bring some information back
So
to
we can
you.
talk about this at the work session also, because we'll be voting on it next month.
Our goal will be to have information for you at the work session.
Okay, hiring practices. We talked about this a little bit last month, and Shelley was going to give us some expert information.
Thank you. Well, thank you for allowing me to come and talk about one of my very favorite subjects of all time, and that's the hiring process. And I mean that sincerely because what I tell our managers, supervisors, directors, deans, the most important job that they have is to hire great people for Butler and for our students. And I say that in any industry I worked in, because if we don't have great people, we can't do what we do successfully. So it's very important to us that we have the ability and that it is a strategic priority of ours to attract and hire and retain and develop people to help us be successful in the future. We have a pretty defined hiring process. I would call it structured, probably more so than I've seen any place else I've ever worked, but it works for us and it works in higher education. And it also makes sure and ensures that we are able to meet our equal employment opportunity goals, to make sure that we are treating all applicants fairly and consistently through that process, and that we are open access to those that are seeking employment. Now, we have everything is online that we do for hiring folks. So there's a website that is employment@butler.com, and it has all of our jobs listed there. Everything starts and ends with a position description. That position description tells us everything we need to know about the person that we're looking for, what those skill sets are that we're looking for, what the qualifications are that we're looking for, what tasks will be performed as a part of that job. That has to be in place, it has to be accurate, and it has to be up to date. So that is probably the first job the manager goes through, is to ensure that that position description is exactly where it should be and that it defines those roles very succinctly. So the only way you know what you're looking for is if you define what you have to have. So those are very much an integral part. We have a system that takes care of our applicant tracking. It's also where we house all of our position descriptions, and it's also where we do our performance management. And performance management is also integral to the part of the position description, knowing again what those tasks are, what those duties are, what those attributes are that you must have to perform this job successfully are all defined in that position description. So all of those things come together to create that cycle. This system is called People Admin. We've had it for, I think it was in place 2 years before I got here for the applicant tracking part. And since I've been here, I've added the position descriptions and also the performance management pieces to it. Eventually, I hope to add more to it, but we'll see. So I gave you some information outlined and showed you kind of step by step what that hiring process is. And that process is done for every position. It used to be just done for primarily the classified positions. We brought in adjunct and student workers into that fold as well to make sure everything is going through that applicant tracking process and that everyone has an opportunity to apply. So once we have all that information in place, the supervisor presents that job description to us and we ensure that it looks great, is reflective, it's updated in our systems, and then it's ready for posting. Everything that from the start of that process of posting a position goes through a workflow. It starts out in the system as a posting. It has to go to the one-up. Whoever the hiring manager is goes to their one-up. If they approve it, it goes to their one-up and they approve it. So the VP has a final approval on any position that gets posted. All of these positions, if they get to that point, have been approved and are in the budget. So it moves through this hiring process, and this checklist is given to every hiring manager and they follow it pretty well. Sometimes they get hung up and we got to assist them, but HR is there with them along the entire process. From the minute we look at the job description, we get the final approval on it. And then it goes in. We have an employment coordinator who manages the posting and assists them with getting things posted. Then we kind of decentralize from there. And from there, it goes into the departments. The hiring manager is generally the search chair because they're the ones that are going to be supervising this person. But they have a committee that they actually select of a variety of people who might interact with this person, or their job may overlap, or they may just want a variety of people to help with that selection process. Okay. So once that position has been posted, we start getting candidates. The search chair has selected a committee. The search chair also sets up all of the evaluative criteria by which they will evaluate each candidate. So it might be based on experience. It might be based on a skill set they're looking for. It might be based on a knowledge base they're looking for. So they will kind of set up these questions that will be used by the search members, the committee members, to evaluate selected candidates that will be, that are in on the posting. Everybody gets evaluated that meets the criteria to get in for the job. So once that evaluative process is done, they meet, they talk about the candidates, and they kind of select those based on their criteria and their evaluative ratings of which ones they'd like to bring in for interviews. At that point, they let us know, HR, who they want to bring in for an interview. That comes to our coordinator, and she begins looking at all of them to make sure they actually meet all the criteria. And then she puts them out there and moves them to a status as ready for interview. So there's a workflow that flows through this entire process and can be tracked, it can be monitored, and it can be successful and get the hiring process accomplished. As we move through that hiring checklist, there's different phases that happen in each step of the way. And the search chair is really responsible for making sure that all of these steps are followed and that they are, completing that process with integrity. And we give them a lot of different tools. We give them questions and answers questions they could use as sample interview questions. We have a rating sheet for those that are interviewed. We have a list of questions that are, here's some questions you could ask. Here are some we don't want you to ask, or stay away from these. So those type of things are all provided to them. We do search chair training for new search chairs. We do that for some refreshers as well. We talk about unconscious bias. We talk about things that, keep yourself in check when you're evaluating people and looking at candidates. So, just because you didn't like some friends, some people in school named Cheryl, then you look at somebody named Cheryl, doesn't mean you shouldn't, consider them for a candidate. So things like that we talk about with them as well. So once they kind of go through that process and they identify, they do their interviews. And then they come down to a selection process, right? And they have to do reference checks, just like every place else, and make sure that that candidate checks out just right. Once they do that, they let HR, myself, or my assistant director know that they'd like to make a salary offer. And at that time, we run it through our processes of identifying where they fit into our wage scales, what their levels of experience are, and how much that will put them into the wage scale. And we provide the managers with a salary offer that they can make. And they make that offer contingent on successful passing of a background check and perhaps a credit application as well, because it depends on the position. So those things are contingent offers. And if they accept that contingent offer, then we process them through the background check process. And once all that's done, we create an offer letter, or that solidifies all of our information into a place that is provided to the candidate. And then we hire them, and then we get them going. So that's kind of the process. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on with getting people hired into it. And I believe that helps us. So when more people can be a part of that evaluative process, the better we are at identifying great hires. So that's kind of the process in a nutshell. Like I said, I've done employment for so many years, and it was probably my area of specialty for a good number of years. And it is probably one of the best parts of the job. And just really being able to bring new people on and develop them, but also see what they can do and what they bring to the institution is really amazing. So we have some great people we've hired, and they've stayed, and it's great. And we hire a lot of great people new coming in as well. So what questions do you have for me? What did I not answer for you?
What I have is pretty much what I said last week. I'm just trying to make sure when we put something in the board book that says we're gonna systematically change the college, we're gonna find systemic inequalities of any variety related to race, gender, age, disability, etc. Then we're gonna collect and analyze data, and we're gonna measure progress, and then we're gonna increase diversity by a measurable amount. I just don't want us to get sued if there's any type of discrimination in one way or another that we could be accused of behind the scenes. I think that kind of language makes it where it opens us up to lawsuit if somebody feels slighted. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
Okay, I understand that, but I think we have good processes in place that would,
But I think
that we're working through.
This has been brought up like 4 different times over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
We're gonna systemically change the culture, and we're gonna diversity and inclusion. I don't want to have any discrimination, verse or otherwise. That
Correct.
Just hire the best.
Exactly.
candidate.
We do.
Like Mark Cuban with Amazon's getting in trouble this last few weeks. He's like, I hired a diverse workforce and I'm proud of it. And FEC's like, hey, you can't do that because it breaks federal law. If you factor in anyone's other factors into your hire, you're breaking federal law, even though it's good to have a diverse workforce. You just can't take that into account. I mean, he could possibly get sued for that or something. You can just hire the best candidate regardless of that. And it would be good to have a diversity of temperament on staff and all that. And just however it shakes out for the best candidate for the job.
Right.
That's what we do.
And diverse can mean different things.
Sure.
It's not just
But
about
it
race.
specifically says
yeah.
race, gender, age, disability. And we're gonna quantify that, and then we're gonna change it quantifiably. It's like, I just don't want to discriminate or open ourselves up to be.
Right.
So
And I think
that's where I was coming.
I understand.
It doesn't always come across.
Well, I appreciate that and know that we do want to attract a variety of people to our jobs.
But what's funny, last time I was talking about Tokyo, and I just pulled a number out of my head, 98% are Japanese in Tokyo.
Yeah.
I Googled it, it is 98%.
Well, there you
It's
go.
neither here nor there. It's just.
Useless knowledge, Shelby.
Yeah.
Full of it. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
Other questions?
Okay, thank you for allowing me to
Thanks,
share
Shelley.
that with you.
Part
You're
of the
welcome.
2% is I had a former
Okay.
principal, both of his kids live in Japan and work for America.
I would love to go to Japan.
Legislative post audit athletics, Dr. Cole is gonna.
Yeah, I apologize for
with that.
stepping out. I, was looking and didn't see anybody that had copies of the audit in front of them.
Oh, I do.
Oh, do you? Okay, so
I do not.
I probably need one more. I think I just. need
Well, I'll
one more.
send one back.
Send one back.
I'll send a couple back
Okay,
because I have mine.
thanks. So I'm not gonna go through these piece by piece, but we're good. Okay. We'll have some additional information. My plan is to have additional information on athletics free at the March meeting. But I do want to, just kind of give you an overview of this. I emailed it to you. Obviously, it was confidential until post audit hearing last week. And so couldn't be released to anybody at all until then. But, the point behind the audit was requested almost 2 years ago by Representative Williams to look at how much community colleges spend on athletics and what the sources of those funds were, and then also to look at where student athletes come from. Right off the top, it's important for you to know that state statute tells us that with athletic scholarships, the only funding source we can use are student fees for athletic scholarships. There are not public funds used, so we don't use taxpayer dollars. We don't use state funding, anything like that. It's student fees. And you folks have in your budget books that come to you back in the supplemental information, there are some tables and some pages that show how our scholarships for athletics, activities, academic scholarships and other scholarships are all tracked, how the money is all tracked. And so you have that information in your, if you went back and looked at your August budget update, it's back towards the back in the supplemental section. Yes, something, one of those pages. So I want to say that to you right up front is that we have always followed state statute in how we assign scholarship dollars and where that funding comes from. So the goal was to look at the community college system. Legislative post audit figured out very quickly with 21 colleges in the Jayhawk conference that includes the community colleges, includes Keston, and it includes Northwest Tech, that they didn't have the time or the capacity to look at every college. Their original request for information was, we need this information within 2 weeks from Butler, Garden, and Hutch. And we said, there's no way. There's absolutely no way that this information can be compiled at the level that you want it and the depth that you want it. And so we had everything to them within 60 days. That's how long it took our institutions to do some of this work and put it together and be able to review it and feel accurate about it. So what they looked at throughout this report was, again, how funds are spent, how much is spent on athletic departments and athletic scholarships, where the funding sources come from, and then really where the students come from. I added Butler specific notes because I knew that, when you have a generalized report like this, it'll say, it'll make a statement, but that may not accurately reflect what actually is Butler's situation. And so I put those notes in along the way so that you would have Butler specific information that might, answer some questions that you would have along the way, or at least clarify some things. They used information that we submitted, budget information, certified roster information, student information. They also used data reports that are posted on the KBOR website. They also used, we have to file a report each year to the NJCAA to meet the Equity in Athletics Disclosure Act. And for the general reader of this report, it's difficult to follow what sources of data they're using as they go along. I even, as I was putting in some Butler specific stuff, there's a table in here that I never did figure out what numbers they were using, because I can't get our Butler numbers to match up with what they have. We're not off that far, but there's a number of different documents throughout. And I'm not saying that their work was not good, because we worked really closely with them. We validated everything as we went along, but they had a heavy lift because they knew nothing about college athletics. So there was a steep learning curve. In the conference, the community colleges and the colleges get to choose at what level their teams compete. In our conference, everybody competes either at the D1 or the D2 level. And within some colleges, it depends on their programs. We have some colleges who have teams that compete at both levels, D1 and D2, and it depends. The scholarship amounts are different at D1, at the D1 level and at the D2 level. At D1, for NJCAA, basically, people will call it a full ride, books, tuition, room and board. You can pay for a little bit of travel. At the D2 level, it's books and, or it's, books, right? Books and tuition? Yeah, tuition and books at the D2 level. So people talk about full rides. Butler doesn't do hardly any. We've got a couple of people that are books, tuition, room and board, and that's about it. Most of the community colleges scholarship levels are way less than that, because we're not like the K-States in the world that have tons of money to provide scholarships. So in this report, we looked at 5 years of information. In that report, we had, and we submitted information from the certified rosters. That doesn't include all of the other students that we have that are athletic scholarship holders, but the best way to document and be consistent was to use the information from our athletes that are on our certified rosters. Certified roster limits are set by the NJCAA. So for instance, football teams, you can have a roster of 85 student athletes. Only 55 of them are supposed to come from out of state or international. The rest are in-state Kansas athletes. Baseball can have 24 students, so those roster limits are set, and so the certified rosters fall within that. But in that 5-year time frame, we had just over 1,000 athletes on those certified rosters for the 7 sports. LPA went to the colleges that they felt like, well, Butler was going to get chosen anyway, at the request of Representative Williams, but they chose Garden and Hutch because we all have football. They felt like we were good representatives because we had either 7 or 8 of the major sports. So they looked at football, men's and women's basketball, softball, volleyball, baseball, and men's and women's soccer. We don't have men's soccer, so we had 7 of 8 sports. Dodge also has the same sports, but they didn't bring it Dodge. So as we go through here, you can see, on page 5 where they show the general funding sources for the KJCC colleges. They're saying 35% in general is local appropriations. Well, that's why I'm putting in specific information for you, because I say to you in FY21, which is the year that they reviewed, our local appropriations were 22.8%, not 35%. Our federal grants, the federal grants at 20%, our federal grants were about 25%. That was right when we were getting HERP money and COVID money. State appropriations, it says 28.1% for Butler. This table says 18%. So when they generalize that information, it doesn't always match us completely. So that's why I tried to give you very specific Butler information. If you turn to page 6, right above the middle of the page where there's the bold base, that bullet right above states the state law that prohibits colleges from using federal, state, or local funds on athletic scholarships. We can use those public funds for our athletic departments. We use them for our general operating budgets. We use them for all other kinds of operations. But this tells us that we can't use those funds on athletic scholarships, and that those scholarships have to be paid with student fees booster club, donations, endowments, or non-public sources of revenue. Now, Hutch uses some of their auxiliary funds from their campus housing to help fund their scholarships, and they can do that because those are, they're not considered public funds. And so this just tells you in general, what we do is track those student fees through a general fund activity fee account for all of our scholarships. And again, that's in your budget updates. And so you can go back and look at that. When they talked about from FY 18 down towards the bottom, Butler had an average of 204 athletes on designated certified rosters. And you can see the range there. It went everywhere from 1 year, 194 up to 217. So we were a little bit lower than the number that they quoted above. But they also said throughout here a couple of different times, and it's important to remember the results that they got from Butler and Garden and Hutch are not projectable to any other college. And even among us, they aren't projectable among, to each other, because every college, every board of trustees supports their athletic programs in a different way. They have different budgets, all those kinds of things. And so even though they provide some evaluation, it's important for you to know that it just doesn't, every institution is different. And I think that that's what they figured out very quickly, is that they were in a situation researching and there wasn't the same from institution to institution for a lot of stuff. So athletic department spending, you'll see Butler fell within that range that they provided. Our athletic department expenditures, which included personnel salaries and benefits and non-personnel expenditures in that 5-year time frame, didn't change a whole lot, ranged from about $2.5 million total to 2.6, just over 2.6 or about $2.7 million. But that's in most of, for all of the colleges, most of those expenditures land on personnel, on-site personnel, salaries and benefits. That's where that funding ends up. If you turn to the top of page 8, we spent an average of 5.1% of total college expenditures on athletics in that 5-year time frame. You can see the tables there that show the comparison between Butler, Garden, and Hutch. And so we were kind of on the low end compared to the other two of those institutions. On page 9, where it shows figure 4, this is the one that I couldn't match up their numbers with any of the information that we submitted or I had access to. So I'm not quite sure. We weren't that far off, but it's important when you look at this also to understand every institution has different salary levels. Everybody has different healthcare costs. Everybody's, benefits are different, even among the 3 institutions. The size of our staff may be different. And so even as you look at those figures and make those comparisons, we have to continue to remember that every individual college has different, different costs and different salaries and benefits. And then again, they talk about the athletic department expenditures. Of course, football is going to be the, for the colleges that have football, the most expensive because the rosters are the largest, 85 compared to the next largest, which is 24. So you have more coaches, you have more equipment, you have more student athletes, all those sorts of things. When you, some of that stuff you can go through, toward the bottom or the middle page 10, where it talks about athletic scholarship spending from fiscal years 2018 to 2022, spent an average of 1.1 million to 1.4. We fell right within that range. And again, think about cost of attendance. Every single institution has different tuition and fee levels, different book costs, different room and board costs. Different funding sources when you consider that, for instance, Hutch is, using some auxiliary funds, we're using foundation funds, and some of those kinds of things to pay for scholarships. We have different rosters that include different numbers of Kansas and out-of-state and international students. There are some institutions still that, once an out-of-state student is, at their college for a semester, they'll roll them over and start to count them as a Kansas resident. We don't do that. If they're an out-of-state student, they remain an out-of-state student. They may get a returning out-of-state scholarship after they've been here for a semester, which means that the foundation will pay the in-state portion of their scholarship like an in-state student, but the foundation pays the out-of-state portion of their scholarship. Same way for international students. We don't roll students over and change their residency status. But some of the institutions still do that. It has been a common practice.
Why would you do that?
I guess so that the costs are lower, maybe, so you can say, well, we have more Kansas students on our roster than other institutions, those kinds of things. So, if you turn to page, the next page on page, it's page 12, it shows page 11 at the top, but that was just already. This is the report that, again, shows all of the colleges and spending, on athletic department spending, but scholarship spending as well. And you'll see that the 3 of our colleges fell within the range of, everyone else. This information came from the Equity and Athletics Disclosure Act information, which includes a different data set. It includes a broader definition pool, so it includes any endowment funds, any booster funds, any concession sales, if you track those, gate receipts, those kinds of things. So this is a broader data set that they're using here than some of the operational budget numbers that we presented for some other stuff. So again, this is just an example of, if you don't know exactly the data set that's being used, it can be confusing to you. How they're making this assessment. But this shows, again, that, and this is not our operational budget. This is the inflated budget numbers, basically, that we send to KBOR. It shows everything. So this shows our budget at $66.9 million, but that's not what our operational budget is. It's higher than our operational budget. This shows it's about 60% of that. So on page 13, this is another thing that I really want to point out to you. In the 5 years that we sent data and that was reviewed, this says that 1/3 of the student athletes and scholarship recipients were from Kansas, while about 2/3 were from other states. That's not accurate for Butler. In that 5-year time frame, we had about 50.4% of our athletes were Kansas athletes. 46.1% were out of state and 3.4% were international athletes. And in that same time frame, more than 80% of our volleyball teams, those 5 years, were Kansas students. And I think more than between 70 and 75% of our soccer players were Kansas students. And so when those kinds of generalizations are made, you just assume that that fits for everybody. But I want you to know, for us specifically, there are teams within the Jayhawk Conference that have entire teams of international students, volleyball teams and soccer teams, and we're not that way. Our coaches continue to recruit the very best Kansas athletes they can recruit, and are really proud of the fact that we have 5. I think next year we have 5 football players coming from Butler County to play on our team. On page 13, my highlight, Butler offers very few full ride scholarships. You'll see in FY20 we had 1, 21 we had 2, 22 we had 4. That's the books, tuition, room and board. The teams that have the greatest financial need, the students that have the greatest financial need, and the teams that are the hardest to recruit Kansas players for are the basketball teams. Because everybody in the state has basketball. There's 47 colleges in Kansas that are recruiting the same athletes from, the KUs and the K-States of the world, all the way down to the community colleges, the private institutions, the faith-based institutions. And so we don't do a lot of full rides, but we have a few. We also are starting to see a little bit of infusion of Jayhawk conference athletes that have NIL funding behind them. So that's going to become a bigger.
What's NI?
Well, the name, image, likeness, the
Oh,
sponsorship money for them to play.
I saw a report from a Big Ten football coach who said that to secure a Big Ten quarterback, you need $1.5 to $2 million in NIL money.
Yeah, it's gonna trickle down to the community college level. Towards the bottom of page 15, where it talks about nearly all student athletes received athletic scholarships. The three colleges, Butler and Garden and Hutchinson, most were awarded to out-of-state students. My little note that's highlighted there, 50.4% of Butler athletes were from Kansas, 48% of the scholarship funds went to those Kansas athletes. Remainder of the differences, and again, a reminder of differences in tuition and fees. So when you're looking at percents and dollar amounts that go, the out-of-state students, the cost is higher for them. You know, so their scholarship amounts may be a little bit different. Let's see, I made some notes, a lot of different notes throughout here about cost of attendance and helping you remember that, you know, that's the case. The maps that are on here, if you go to the web-based version, which I think is posted, actually, maybe the copy, I have to stop and think. No, there's a web-based version. I'll have to look and find out where it is. These maps are interactive, so you can go to the maps and you can actually click on the states and see where the students are from and stuff like that. If you look on page 19, again, underneath that table that shows the percentage of students for each of the teams that are in-state, out-of-state, international, I made a note below that shows you specifically what Butler students, where Butler students are represented, in-state, out-of-state, international. And so, that you can look at that comparison and again, see some specific Butler information. So, when they do these things, they didn't make any recommendations. There aren't any findings or anything like that. It's just, again, kind of an overview of athletic programs in Kansas. The athletic programs at the community college level in Kansas are critical programs for enrollment, for engagement, for donor support, all of those kinds of things. And that's some of the information that I'll bring back to you next month. I think it's really important for you to know, and I told my folks from the very beginning, because we've been through a legislative post audit before, I said, track your hours. I want to know when we're done with this, what time commitment we've spent. And so and these were my little notes, but you'll see on the bottom of page 2 at Butler, I spent of my own time almost 150 hours working on this report. And I had folks in finance, financial aid, accounts receivable, research. They spent a collective total of 145.25 hours. So we spent 295 hours of Butler man hours on this report. Garden, Ryan Ruda, a few weeks ago, when I asked him, had spent 110 hours of his personal time, his time working on it. And his collective folks in finance and financial aid had spent 152 hours. I don't have Hutch's exact numbers, but they are similar. Carter said that they're very similar to what I reported. And so if you think about the cost, the man hour cost
yes.
for the three colleges, probably the report probably hits pretty close to about a $45,000 cost.
Oh my gosh.
For the three institutions, because the amount of time that was put into this. And there was a lot of work back and forth with legislative post audit. A lot of work, obviously, individually by our folks gathering information and reviewing it and validating it and verifying it. So.
Are you saying 45,000 per college?
No,
Just
collectively. That, about somewhere between, $13,000 and $15,000 between. Depending on the number of hours and people involved.
Does legislators post, do they track that? Do they ask that information back?
The number?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, does anyone care? I mean,
I don't.
I don't know how this works. The 2 times I've seen it appear to me to be driven by someone with an axe to grind. And that's what's driving the request. is there any, do we hold anybody accountable for the impact that those axes are having on the people that have to pull the data?
The Legislative Post Audit Committee did not ask for any kind of, the time that it took to put the report together or anything like that, so.
Is that typical?
I think in the two times that we've done legislative post audits, I don't believe that they've ever asked for the amount of time. So I don't know that they, and the legislative post audit people spend a lot of time, obviously doing this. That's what they've been requested to do. But I think it's important for you folks to know, collectively the amount of time that that this really took. And we track our time. Got a spreadsheet that shows it. So anyway, so I'll have more information next month with a more comprehensive look at athletic spending for you and enrollment and those kinds of things. So I don't know if you have any quick questions right now related to this, but
Next month, could you have the total Butler County students?
yes, I would.
That's
And I
fine.
meant to have that number and I didn't write it down, so I don't want to just tell you, but I'm gonna have to go back. I'll have to go back and count through the certified rosters to see.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to spend extra
No,
time. That's fine.
Don't need any more hours logged.
No, I can. do
But
it.
can we get this average up? Oh, yeah, I guess,
Can
let's
we-
make it
can-
300
Can
even.
we get it
Yeah.
past 150?
Yeah, sorry.
I don't have any questions. I just have a comment. I understand the time it took but I'm actually just happy to see it. To be honest, I don't know really what I expected to see, but to me, there's way less money being spent on this than what I anticipated. And I do feel like it's obviously a positive thing for the state and for the community. And so I think it's good. To me, it was good that this was done. I think it's a very positive thing to show to the community, even if it did take a little bit of time and effort. I think it was time and effort well spent personally.
Well, I think it's informative to a certain degree. I think it certainly shows that legislative post audit people figured out really quickly that they were in way over the fence because they just didn't know anything about athletics at all. And again, every institution is different, and so they did a huge lift to try and figure out how to.
And I think a lot of us have no clue. And when you're in a time of economic, crisis or whatever you want to call it, or even just a downturn in enrollment and hours, and we talk about this all the time. This is just a huge piece of the puzzle that you need to know. And it's honestly shocking to me that it's not as big a piece as what I thought it would be. So just my opinion.
In our November budget book, it's S23. So
Okay.
it gives us the fee income and the expenses for that.
I thought it was S27.
No, I think it's 23.
Yeah, good.
Okay, next we have our board action items. We're a little bit behind on time, guys, so here we go. Affirmation of service and ACCT Guide to Ethical Governance. You'll see those documents on page 45. We've talked quite a bit about the affirmation of service. One of the things that we're looking at in our report back to the HLC is that hopefully we can adopt one or both and have that done before we respond back to them. I think it's a great first step, and open it up for any comments that you guys might have.
You need a motion first.
If you're ready to give a motion, yes, you can,
We'll
or
do
we
that
can do
way.
the motion and then
Motion
discuss.
second and then comments.
Yeah.
I move that the board adopt both the affirmation of service and the standards of good practice and the guide to ethical governments.
Okay, do I have a second?
I would just like to say we could approve these separately, because there's no way I can vote for the one that just puts in writing the same problem I've had for 4 years now. Speak with one voice as a board member wants decision policies. I'm not going to agree to that. It also says at the very top, as a governing board member, I'm required to X, Y, Z. We're not required to do this. So I don't appreciate the being put on us.
Okay, do you want to amend the
Well,
motion?
there hasn't been seconded.
There's
Also,
no
There had
Well,
been
I
a second.
thought they
do you want to withdraw it and then restate it? as separate?
I will withdraw it. And then how about if I recommend that we adopt the what is it? The affirmation of service and the standards of good practice.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion
That
in
way it
reference to that?
separates.
I don't know if that'll pass it.
Any discussion? If not, we'll take a vote.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes,
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
okay.
Okay, then shall we speed up the,
Yeah, if you want to do another
Okay,
motion.
I move that we adopt the guide to ethical governance.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
That's what I've said before.
Okay,
Could we tweak the bullet point under roles, Shelby, that you have a challenge with?
Well,
If
it's
we-
also the top of it where I'm
Well,
required to.
let me
Yeah.
hit this one first, and this one is more substantive. My understanding from your comments on this before is that you understand our obligation to recognize what the board decision is the board's decision, but you want the ability to be able to say, I didn't support it. I voted against it, but that is the policy of the board, but I voted against it. And
Right, you're mandating my speech, which is a violation. I mean,
well, no, that's not a First Amendment violation because we're agreeing to this stuff.
I
So
will speak with one
it's-
voice. How do I speak with one voice if I dissent? That's not one voice.
Well,
Dave dissented about us raising tuition. He said, I disagree with that. I think the board shouldn't have done it after the fact, that he was disagreeing with what he has every right to. He didn't vote with the majority. But that's still the tuition rate. It's just,
I accepted the tuition.
sure, it's what
I-
it was, but if you
Right.
didn't agree with us,
Right.
maybe you still don't. But
I think
got it
you're
right.
reading it more literally than what it needs, and I'm just wondering if there's a way we can adjust the language to where it gets the crux to the issue is the board needs to be, the board as a group is supportive of the board's policies while not losing the ability to tell your constituents that that was something I didn't support.
Well, if you change it to what is in the affirmation that we've literally just voted on, that you publicly affirm the majority decision rather than the speak with one voice, just change the wording of that. And at the top, as a governing board member, take out that I am required to, just leave it as a governing board member, comma.
I'm willing to. You
yeah.
can't just, the president of the United States, our governor, are not required to do any of the silly stuff on this page. As the president of the United States, he's not required to do all of this. And so why, as a board member, am I gonna say, I am required to now do this? I just have to be a legal resident, 18. Live in the district I was elected in. That's what I'm required to do. This is all, and I'm not saying I won't.
Can we
do
say
that,
I will
just can't
strive
mandate it
to?
on me.
Can we say I will strive to? I'm just trying to
say,
put it in
I will be
verbiage.
responsible to?
I'll be open to, I mean,
I
we
will-
could put this on next month if we want to hash it out.
I literally think
Unless
it's
we can do
two
it now, it's
tweaks
fine.
there that if we make it more in line with what we have over here, that we can all agree. And wouldn't it be lovely to agree? Just-
Okay, let's see that motion, Miss Kim.
Oh, gosh. Okay, I know, I just like grammar 101. My motion would be to accept the Board of Trustees Guide of Ethical Governments with the amendments to be, as a governing board member, I will strive to. And then under roles, instead of speak with one voice as a board member, once a board decision or policy is made, then change it to the wording that we already have on the affirmation, which is I will publicly affirm that the majority decision of the board constitutes the policy of the college.
We can make this.
Do I have a second for that?
I second that.
Any discussion?
Could you read the last one? Publicly affirm.
It's the same
It's
sentence.
same
again.
sentence, okay?
And it's not gonna stop me from agreeing to it, but the very last paragraph, I find kind of nonsensical, but that public education is the greatest instrument for the preservation and the perpetuation of our representative democracy. It's like, that's not currently how universities are operating. Grand protectors of our democracy. I just think, whatever, we can have it in there, but I think it's nonsensical.
Noted. Thank you. Noted. Any other discussion?
I was a difficult child this year.
You were, yes. I'm sure I'll talk to your mother one day. Okay, motion
Like a signed agreement.
and this, yes,
Sign-
signed
Pass that
affirmation.
back to me and I'll.
Be
print-
careful with that thing on the wall.
I know, it's not, it's not glass.
So
Bring a
I
split
did
copy
have
of
a
it.
motion and a second for that. So will you, no other discussion, would you?
So we had the first one that Dave made.
Did you
to adopt
withdraw it?
It was also seconded, so I think we might have to vote on it.
I think we
Okay.
do need to
Well,
vote
can I,
on it.
can I change mine to be an amendment of his motion?
Yeah, the first one got seconded by Forrest.
No, I didn't. I
No,
didn't. I
no,
asked you
almost
first
did.
if you were going to withdraw it before I seconded.
Oh,
That
yeah,
was-
I withdrew the first one and just made it to the affirmation of service and standards. Then I made one to accept the thing, the
Guide to ethical
Okay.
guide to ethical
First
governance.
Right.
And then I seconded that.
And you
So
seconded
my
that.
motion could be to amend that.
Your motion would be to amend it.
And I seconded that.
Good catch. Jim.
Okay.
Okay,
That's where we're.
Voting on the
So we have
amendments.
to vote on the amendment motion
Exactly.
before we vote on the motion.
Okay. We're voted on the amended. motion.
Correct. Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes. I
Okay.
vote
Okay.
to accept this as amended.
Yes.
Yes. That's what we're voting on now.
I just moved to.
No, I already
Okay,
moved. You kept moving.
second, whatever, let's get it on. with it.
Trustee,
And this is the,
this is to accept the
As
amended
As amended.
version. Yes. Trustee
Vote
Good,
yes.
yes.
trustee Brungart.
Yeah.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
Look at this, several. Seven times. Good deal. Okay, B, Grizzly Backer, alcohol service
I would
in
move
Hall
to
of
accept it
Fame.
as presented to sell the alcohol and XYZ as presented.
Second.
Any
It's
discussion?
laid out pretty well.
Darn right.
Any discussion?
Not fighting about serving alcohol.
We always pass the alcohol ones.
We have alcohol here.
Could we serve it here during the board
That's what
member
I just-
meeting after 5
This is,
o'clock?
this is
maybe?
actually an authorized location.
Yeah.
At the break, yes.
Okay, trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart.
Yeah.
Trustee Rhodes.
Yes.
Trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
I love that room up there. Very. Kind words.
Ireland, we want to talk about fleet replacement. Just vote.
Yeah, sorry, I'm not as in favor as of alcohol.
More in favor of alcohol.
It's a little cheaper too.
All right, before you is the TFA for the approval of the enterprise fleet management to replace our aging fleet. This will be coming out of facilities fleet budget that we already have budgeted annually. We did check into several other leasing options and companies. Enterprise had the best reviews for smaller corporations or a commercial for anything under 100 vehicles. Enterprise also has a customer rep and an office in Wichita, but that was a big step for me. And also Enterprise was the only company that would use the government pricing in the purchasing of our vehicles instead of their corporate pricing, which is going to save us money. And Enterprise was the only other company who will pay its equity at the end of our lease. So once we pay off our lease, or if we trade vehicles, whatever the equity is in that vehicle, they will pay us back for it, but they won't keep that equity.
And the term of this is how long again?
It depends on the vehicles. This agreement is until we terminate. We can terminate at any time. We'll just be responsible for any vehicles in that lease at the time. Some vehicles will be in a 36-month lease, and some will be in up to a 48 to 60. It depends on the vehicle and the price.
So Ireland, what's the difference between a government price and a corporate price? Is it so much over invoice or over net?
I do not know the difference, but the government pricing is cheaper than the corporate price. Enterprise cannot purchase vehicles as cheap as they can due to the government contract price. Yes, sir.
You got us at 6 vehicles annually, which puts us on a 7-year cycle. So we're spending, what is that, $40,000 a vehicle every 7 years? About how many miles do we get on that? And then we're gonna switch it to a 3 or 4 year cycle?
That is correct. We spend about 40,000 per vehicle for the cars and SUVs. The big vans are between 50 and 60,000. We will be able to get about 20 vehicles for about the same price over the 5 years. So what was your other question?
Well, it says we have 42 vehicles, so we're gonna,
We will not be entering every vehicle into the lease program. Most of our fleet for my work trucks and stuff that's already paid off and purchased, we're going to be driving them until they die, and then we have to
take them
replace
over to
them.
diesel and let them.
Yeah, and then we will look at the option to either, replace them in a leasing or purchasing at that time.
So if we have newer vehicles, then we'll have more advantage to the warranties.
That is
Won't
correct.
work on
With the leasing, what we're looking at is leasing all the fleet, which is approximately 42 that we send out with stakeholders all the time. That the coaches take, the faculty takes, the staff takes, wherever. Those are the ones that we're looking at leasing. And we keep the vehicles now if we purchase to at least 135 to 150,000 miles is our policy before we sell. This here should be with leasing program. It should save us on maintenance because they'll be under warranty the whole time. It should save us on fuel. They should be more, fuel efficient. And just the only thing we hopefully should have to replace is a tire here and there and oil changes into typical routine maintenance. So.
And so what make and model of cars?
These will all be new. We're
Chevrolet?
It depends on which the factory will give us the best price. We're looking at now instead of car SUVs because we can't hardly find cars anymore, and also the resale value of an SUV is higher than a sedan or a car. So,
And the closest place to get warranty service for a GM vehicle is?
it's here in town.
Yeah, touch no.
They'll
Miller.
do cars and SUVs.
Yes, they do. And Augusta is Ford dealership.
Okay.
And Wichita is for Dodge. But Enterprise will handle all the warranty issues. We'll handle all the small maintenance stuff on it. So
But if we switch from cars to SUVs, that won't get us better gas.
what we should, because a lot of our cars are only averaging about 25. A lot of our vehicles are at least 7 to 15 years old. So, I'm not
No, I'm just
taking
saying,
in
new
effect.
SUVs
I
don't get
understand
amazing
what
gas.
you're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking at that as a big savings. But the biggest thing is I can get a replacement fleet quicker now by the leasing program and have a better fleet for our stakeholders.
But I will tell you that I worked for a company many, many, many years ago that used Enterprise, and they were great to work with.
Okay,
Do we need a motion?
need a motion?
I move to authorize the agreement with Enterprise Fleet Management for the customization of the fleet replacement plan.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Roll
Trustee
call.
Good, trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes,
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, passes
Sorry.
7-0. Next item is strategic higher education proposal for consulting.
Okay, so in the work session in November, we discussed a proposal from the Strategic Higher Education Group. That proposal at the time was substantially more expensive than what you see in front of you tonight. And the reason for that is because that proposal included having that's the acronym for the organization, having their staff work on our behalf. We have removed that piece from this proposal. And so what remains for the proposal is staff training. They'll work with us to implement a relationship sales approach and also the setup of our technology to align with this new approach. In order to facilitate this, we have changed we will plan to change job descriptions for 2 of our admissions counselors to what we call enrollment coaches. And then their admissions territories will be reassigned. The enrollment coaches are going to work with specific populations, and they'll be employing these sales strategies in order to move students through all the way from inquiry to enrolled. Do I have any questions?
Do we need a motion?
Have a motion?
I do. I move that the board approves the
Mr.
college to enter into a contract for the services with Strategic Higher Education, beginning February 2024 through January 2025.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, second with Forrest. Okay. Okay, any discussion on this?
Well, we have if we're, January of next year and we're reevaluating this, will we have sort of metrics or a means of being able to identify how successful this program was over the next 8 months, 9 months?
Yes, we will. We, with your approval tonight, we are going to hit the ground running next week. So we will be able to influence fall enrollment.
My thing, I struggle with it being an additional cost to what we've already approved for additional marketing funds. That's the thing I'm struggling with is I feel like we've infused a lot into marketing already. So this still seems like I applaud you for coming back with something lesser, but it's still a big ask considering what we've already given to marketing.
I understand. This would not be for marketing.
But it's to get kids in. And in my brain, that's one and the same. We want more students, and that's tied to marketing in my mind.
Okay.
There's no way I can support spending $150,000 for somebody to show up 4 to 6 times on campus throughout a year and talk to us on the phone. I mean, we've literally doubled our marketing budget for 2 years and not gaining more students. Now, instead of taking some of that $370,000 additionally spent, we're just going to tack on another $150,000 and let somebody else help us do it. It's like, that seems, I can't support that.
I think that the on-campus visits, yes, 4 to 6, but they're going to be regular contact remotely.
I understand, but we went from a $420,000 marketing budget 2 years ago to an $800,000 marketing budget with no increases in students. Now we're going to spend another $150,000 for an outside consulting. It's like we could have taken that money out of the additional $375,000 and put it towards it, but this is just additional funds while keeping all the other funnel marketing, whatever.
One thing I want to clarify with this too is that we'll be training the enrollment coaches, but we will also have the training materials available to us. We will put those in Canvas, which is our learning management system, and we'll have other employees that would be able to go through the training. So in the event we have turnover, in the event we want to train additional staff members to utilize this, it will still be available. So it won't just be
the one time or them coming in 3 or 4 times a year, we will be able to retain this training material and use it into the future.
And the goal is to build it out among the entire, in the entire admissions department.
$150,000 for training. You could hire 3 people to go full-time job seek out students. I don't understand why we have to keep.
I haven't told you what Danny Creed costs.
I don't, we double our marketing budget, nothing happens. Oh, but that's not trying to get students on the door. That's the cart before the horse.
Well, wait a second. I'm gonna defend marketing because when you say that nothing was done, that's inaccurate. Kelly has presented to you guys on a couple of different occasions how those funds were spent, the changes in the metrics and the impact. Marketing's responsibility is to get them to the door and to get them interested in Butler and then to hand them off to other people. So the marketing dollars were effective because you saw the increases in the metrics, and all of the way that those dollars were spent. This is an effort to impact what happens when those students are passed off from marketing to admissions and advising to get them in the seat. So those marketing dollars are spent in a different way than what these dollars are going to be spent. So I'm going to defend marketing and the work that they do because they have shown that those dollars were impactful in traffic directed to the college.
The traffic didn't enter the college.
That's what I'm saying. These dollars will impact. These dollars are for a different part of that funnel where you attract them to the college, but you get them in the seat. That's the part that these dollars will impact.
184,000 credit hours 12 years ago, and now we have 124,000 credit hours without double marketing budget and additional consultants.
How did Wichita go from 50,000 students to 42 in 1 year? We lost people there.
Right.
I mean, we don't have as many graduates. Butler County, this class of 2024 is not going to have a whole lot of graduates. And that's, the baby boomer years of my time and your time are over. And so we have to try everything to try to attract that student to come here. And if it's developing a relationship just as much as an academic relationship, just like a football coach develops a relationship with the football player or 2 football players, that may be what it takes to attract that student now. And this to me is just a different tool to give to those advisors to help attract that student to this institution.
Okay, are there other comments? If not, I'd like to make one comment. I'm really not ready to decide on this now. And my reasoning is that I feel like we have to have an overall enrollment discussion. This batting this stuff around, one little thing here, something here. I would like to table it for a period of time that gives us a chance to talk about solutions to enrollment, apprenticeships, technology, the SHE type program and so forth, because we're not doing anything different. I mean, we're not offering anything different. And if we hear that technology is one of the solutions to us gaining more employment, that needs to be a discussion. But unfortunately, implementing new technology is not fall semester. It's probably spring next year. So although this might help and could possibly help in the interim, I feel like we don't have any new offerings, so we're not going to get as much benefit. But as I said, I would rather table it now, even if we just table it for 30 days or till the next meeting and take a look at some of these other enrollment decisions we need to make. I mean, we're past enrollment for this spring, and I know that they need some lead time, but that's just my feeling.
I'd agree. And because to Dave's point, enrollment everywhere. I mean, we talked about this at our API meeting last week, that Superintendent in Augusta is sounding the alarm bells again, that it's getting worse and worse there too. We've already closed a grade school and he's like, the next one's gonna hurt. The last time it was able, they could pivot and make it a positive for the community. And he said, literally, the next one's gonna hurt. The ability to do that again, does not exist. And, you know, continuing to throw money at a problem that we literally have no solution for, you know, and I'm not saying we as in Butler Community College, I'm saying as a society, because it's just a fact of the boomers being gone, like you said. We've got to be really, really smart with our resources, and infusing extra money into marketing thus far hasn't done anything. Not saying they haven't done their job, but it hasn't changed enrollment dollars per what Shelby said. So I don't think that this is, if I thought this was a magic fix, sure, I would do that, but I just don't think it's a magic fix. That's where I'm at. But we can table it or we can.
We saw
vote
enrollment
down or-
impact when they worked with marketing and culinary during the spring.
In the fall. The height of culinary being new.
And why couldn't
Many,
those
many
people-
articles in the paper, many TV ad. I mean, it was the new and the shiny. And yes, she was there, but may have been the same results because it was highly advertised everywhere.
And did our people pay attention to what they did at the time, that they could maybe just toss some ideas out to everybody
Well,
else?
it's a deeper training, you know, it's
Yeah.
a deeper training than that.
Our staff didn't do this then.
Yeah, I mean, it's however you want to vote
Is
on
the
it. but-
entire marketing budget already spent for the year, or is there 150,000 left that they could pay for it themselves out of their own budget?
I think we're missing the point here. We are critical of enrollment. And when we're presented with opportunities to try to change it, we poo-poo it because what costs some money. And if we don't get immediate instant gratification by we spent $1 here and it gave us this next year, we want to cut it and try something different. I like this idea because assuming we get the metrics at the end that can tell us whether it was successful or not, it's a one-time investment. It's not hiring 3 more people that we're going to pay their salary every year from now on to do the same thing. We're changing a process internally that is, if successful, going to provide benefits into the future without having to spend $150,000 every year because we've trained the people to do what this program provides. Now, if you don't believe in the program, then that's a whole different issue. But if we believe that this is successful and we have direct evidence from culinary that it was, I can get my head around the cost for the next and see where it goes. I wouldn't oppose to Linda's point about tabling to get more information. I'm not opposed to that, although at some point we're giving up the ability to measure by January of next year the effect if we don't give it to them until fall enrollment is done. If we're too far into the fall enrollment game, we're not going to give ourselves a meaningful time frame to get results by next year when we're presented with this again or something like it.
And now is when we're recruiting for fall.
We are recruiting for fall now, and fall enrollment begins in March. So by allowing our staff to go through some of this training before enrollment begins, we'll be more prepared. We'll be able to discuss and dispel student fears. That's a lot of it too, is that, you know, this is a sales approach. We have a lot of competition in our community, in this region for higher education. So our admissions counselors, now enrollment coaches, will be poised and ready to dispel things. They'll be able to say, hey, look at this, look at the competition, look what Butler can offer you instead. So I really see this as a way for us to move forward. Is there a magic bullet? Is this it? I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I do know that this is at least a tool that we'll have in our toolbox. And to Forrest's point, this is a one-time cost. If we were to hire 3 additional people, it would be well over $150,000 for this kind of work.
And are we certain that our systems will work together? I mean, that was one of the challenges that people were going through, certain systems that weren't talking to each other and so forth. And we needed that to happen. Are we?
We are, yes, we are addressing that now.
And we're not seeing any kind of cost.
No.
any kind of significant cost for that?
No.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Trustee Good,
What was the motion? Because I in the restroom.
To
approve the proposal.
To approve it.
Yes.
Trustee Brungart,
No.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
no.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
No.
Okay, motion passes 4-3. Thank you. Okay. Oh, that's right. I'm looking at my book. BCTV, yeah, I'm looking at my budget. Okay, Mr. Bill.
Okay, so 2 years ago, I tasked our BCTV staff with reimagining what we had for BCTV. As most of you know, historically, BCTV was cable channel 20 and it was some stagnant programming. And so over the last couple of years, you've seen growth in the offerings from BCTV and how in their approach, both from a sports media standpoint as well as their involvement in academics. And so in the last 2 years, we've seen significant growth, both in student involvement as well as the reach and the offerings they have. We've streamed over 200 Butler events last year, more than 50 off-campus events. We generate revenue within BCTV. The student team just in the last year has tripled the size of the number of students that are involved in it, from 8 to 24. And now, as we talk about fall enrollment as well, we're looking at about 40 students to be involved in the program by the fall. These are students, though, that also aren't just working and running cameras in BCTV. These are students that have and are enrolling in mass comm classes and video production, in sports media, and in our magazine classes. So these are students, most of them are net new students into our mass comm program as well, which has helped bolster some of that enrollment. In 2023, doing outside contracts, which means our students and our staff at BCTV got hired, let's say, to do the KJCC track championship for the summer or for the year. We generated about $29,000 in revenue. So far for 2024, we've signed commitments to $50,000, $49,700. And we have another $79,000 in production quotes out for bid. So these are students that are going and filming in the NBC tournament, or we had the contract this last year for the Wichita Open. Students get to go and have that real life hands-on experience. And because of that, those students then when they leave Butler, they're moving on to sports media or video production programs at schools like Kansas State, University of Kansas, Wichita State, and Florida State. In fact, Kate News Near tonight is moving on to KU.
Yay.
I mean, I would have preferred K-State, but whatever. He's moving on to KU, and some great news for him is he'll be going to KU as a junior, and the people that he's talked to as advisors at KU have made it clear to him that because of his involvement, both in our mass comm program here, but also the extensive experience he's gotten within BCTV, he's coming in at a senior level. I mean, he'll know more coming in as a junior than those juniors that started at KU as freshmen. Additionally, our students that are involved with BCTV have been hired either in full-time or part-time positions at the Wichita Thunder, Wichita Wind Surge, Turbo Sports Group, which is a subsidiary of ESPN. We have a student that has gone on to work with the Kansas City Chiefs and students that are now working at K-State Athletics. So it's a great program. One of the challenges that we've had in the program historically is because we kind of pulled it out of what BCTV used to be to what we want it to be and what it is now is aging equipment, no standardization. So we've, over the last few years, have budgeted to try to start updating that. We budgeted $60,000 a year for those updates. What I've got before you today is an opportunity to essentially do the next 5 years worth of updates through a leasing program to get them all standard equipment now. It's budgeted money that we have, but it allows us to buy it on a lease now or get all the equipment today and then pay it over the next 5 years. It does a few things for us. It puts us on a potential for a refresh every 6 years, I guess. That's what it is, every 6 years on a 6-year refresh if we need to refresh some of the equipment. It is a market lease, so at the end of the lease, we can either buy the equipment out, release it from them, or just refresh if there's something that needs refresh. There's pieces of equipment you don't refresh, right? Like, so when you think of a big box lens on a camera, I'm a hunter, so I think of a scope on a rifle. You know, a 20-year-old scope is still great as long as the glass is good. That's the same way with lenses, as long as they are able to work in 4K or whatever the current technology is. So we did spend this year out of our budget that $60,000 to buy equipment this year. The leasing company is actually buying that equipment back from us and then putting it in the whole package and leasing the whole package to us, which will flip that $60,000 to make our first payment, which is would be due in April. So it wouldn't be any additional cost out of this budget year for us to start this lease. In fact, yeah, there creates about a $13,000 savings from what we spent to what our first payment will be. So we'll recoup that money. You know, within the TFA, there's educational opportunities, growth. I kind of explained some of that in there and where we're at with the program. I would encourage all of you, if you haven't, regardless of what happens here, for you to download the BCTV Plus app. There's tons of quality programming on there. We have a new Monday morning sports report that Caden's directing, right? Doing it all, right? We also have a weekly Buco Nation update and that's completely ran by students. Developed, written, produced, directed, filmed completely by students. And so it's great stuff to see. In fact, tonight, some of our Matt Jacobs isn't here tonight. Some of our BCTV staff is working with students from the Andover high schools to live stream Andover Central's basketball games tonight. So these are students, high school students that we're trying to, that get to come to our program next year. And so this just gets us the technology that we need so that they're not operating some of their stuff on 20-year-old equipment and all the equipment's current. And it also allows them exposure to equipment that they're going to use when they leave here and either go on to KU or go work at Turbo Sports or wherever. It creates modern equipment. But yes, ma'am.
These students get paid?
A lot of our students are scholarshiped. Now, when they work outside external events, we do, I mean, the revenue numbers, I give you your gross revenue numbers because we pay them hourly for working outside events. But when they work inside of Butler, it's part of their scholarship.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the board to approve the lease purchase of BCTV equipment needs.
Second,
Second.
okay, any discussion?
I have a question. When we expect for your guys' revenue generated to go towards paying for this?
Well, and yes, that's part of the BCTV budget to help pay for this, other things we need. But remember, those revenue numbers were gross, and so we have expenses as we go through there. But what that revenue does is it prevents me from having to find other budget money to supplement.
I just need to know with the revenue generated, I mean, where's it currently going, or can that be applied to this?
So yes, it'll be applied within the budget, and then if that allows me to reduce budget over time, that's the goal. This is the kind of big equipment needs. We have other little wiring pieces that I pay for today out of that budget that I don't want to have to pay for. So that's why I've tasked them with generating revenue. But to your point, yes, that revenue goes into the BCTV budget.
Okay, any other comments? If not, roll call.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes,
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
Thank you.
next, you're welcome. Next, we have the consent
I
agenda.
would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Is there any discussion?
Each day.
If
Yeah,
not,
you did.
roll call, please.
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shearer,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
Okay, supplemental information, key performance indicators update. Dr. Mohammed.
Thank you. Today you have one update to the KPIs. It is in green. And as has been my practice in the past couple of years, because we come up with this once a year, it's kind of easy to forget what these are. It is the graduation rate, the federal graduation rate. It tracks a very specific population over a 3-year period. Those who are new students after high school, coming in the fall, seeking a degree. And what you will notice is that from the last cohort, it dropped about 1%, which is a little misleading. What in the last cohort, we had 60.6%. This cohort, we had 60.4%. The feds always round up or down when it's 0.5 up this way or that way. So we lost about 0.2%. But what I'd also have you see is right next to it, you also see the transfer rate, which went up. So if you put the graduation rate and the transfer rate together, they have remained the same from the last cohort we have tracked. Overall, this is between those two percentages, it's a difference of about 10 to 12 students, I believe. I don't have the exact number with me. But what it shows is that we're kind of keeping a steady pace still. And with that, I'll take the easy questions, hard ones for the boss.
Question, how come we don't do private universities too, along with the public on the transfer?
That's a good question, Mrs. Good. Partly because, well, actually not partly, entirely. Because when it comes to the public universities, we can track through the K-board system, but what you're looking at is it's an aggregate number which not only includes public universities, but also those private ones which let us have the information through the National Clearinghouse. So that particular one is almost everybody. Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Do we have our 20th day numbers yet?
I knew somebody who was going to ask.
I know it's getting close. I didn't count.
It is the census date today. We are still in the process of certifying some numbers, so we'll have them by tomorrow.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
I had this, I think it's the same part, or it's the next section on the
KPIs.
no, I had emailed you about it, the financial statements that are now coming.
Oh,
That are
yes,
such a,
yes. I have an update to that.
okay, thank you.
Do you want me to tell you about that now?
I couldn't get mine open.
Well, and I
Okay,
think
well,
it's mostly
you don't
public
have to worry about
information,
it
so
now.
that's why
You
I
don't
wonder
have to
why
worry
it's.
about it now. Well, the information that the finance people and the cyber people spent a lot of time talking about this, and they felt like some of that was sensitive information, even though it could be requested by core. If it was core requested, some of that would be redacted. So what finance and IS have done is they're creating a different report that's taking away the account number information and all that sort of stuff. So the expenditure reports that are coming to you guys now will not be encrypted, but they've just in that report, they've removed some of that information that they felt like was kind of sensitive and created too much access for people that wanted to use it the wrong way. So you should be good to go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So appreciated your question and because it generated some additional conversation on our end, when you were asking about what happens if there's a court request. So, yeah.
Okay, and we went through monthly statement earlier. Thank you notes.
Yeah, just calendar stuff. There's finishing at basketball, softball, and baseball, of course, are starting. We've got some home games coming up with softball. Check out children's theater production if you can for Alvin. And then you can see down towards the bottom, sorry, the instrumental music, theater productions, vocal music, all that sort of stuff coming up. So,
And we can do it on here.
you can.
I won't have to bother Jennifer. This is going to be great.
Yes, but if you need help, you can call the office and we'll help you.
I noticed we have the work sessions on the calendar of activities. Is it still the intention that we're not going to have a work session every month unless there's a particular reason that we need one, like obviously with the HLC report this month?
I understood that we have to have February, we might have to have March, but we were going to try them after our board meeting if we were getting efficient enough and so forth.
Okay.
Good. So now we're ready for the motion for executive session. You have something?
Wait a minute. You guys asked me to check. My friend's name is Dan Creed, who does a lot of training. He's a master trainer with over 15,000 hours of training. His rates are $10,000 a day. But he would he did give us a rate for an hour and a half. And I think if I worked with him maybe a little bit more, I might be able to talk him down a little bit more, but it would be about $1,000 for an hour and a half of his leadership training. And it's from somebody who goes out and does it corporately.
Okay,
Tell
thank
him
you.
provide a wonderful spread.
Well, he has a webpage, so.
We'll make it in good plastic cups. Okay, so we're ready for motion for executive session and maybe a break.
Here it is. And I've got an updated motion. Somebody's, for whoever wants to read it.
How about Aaron?
Aaron.
Come on, Aaron.
Scooby, do the reading. The danger of sitting. Hey, at least she gives me something to read. You didn't even give me anything last time for it. Ms. Chair, I move that the board recess into executive session to discuss negotiations pursuant to the open meetings exceptions for said matters relating to employer-employee negotiations, and that the board, President Kim Kroll, Bill Rinkenbaugh, Shelley Stoltz, Dr. Phil Sperry, and Kent Williams be included, and discussion relating to non-elected personnel which, if discussed in open session, might violate the right to privacy, with the board and President Kim Kroll present. The meeting will resume in the Dankert Trustee Boardroom within 45 minutes.
And I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Are we gonna be good with 45 or do we want to make it?
No, you're gonna be good with 30, but we'll see if we can.
Trustee
Okay,
Good? Yes. Trustee Bogart? Yes. Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Jolly?
yes.
Trustee Hueslick?
Yes.
Trustee Shear?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
Break, break.
Quick break.
Grab a sandwich. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Hey,
Just that, you know.
Yeah, you can put it up.
New inquiries.
You guys are
But we didn't really see.
trying to push a little too much.
Whoa.
Okay. We entered into the executive session at 7:25 and exited at 8:05. So then, let's see. I need a motion in reference to Dr. Kroll's retirement notice.
Miss Chairman,
Yes.
I move that we accept the resignation and retirement. Should just be retirement of Dr. Kim Kroll. No effective date,
Yeah, as discussed.
as discussed.
Do I have a second?
And I'll second.
A roll call?
Trustee Good,
Yes.
trustee Brungart,
Yes.
trustee Rhodes,
Yes.
trustee Jolly,
Yes.
trustee Hueslick,
Yes.
trustee Shear,
Yes.
trustee Smith.
Yes.
I move
Okay.
we adjourn.
No,
Oh,
I'm not
okay.
ready.
Oh.
Right before we
Linda,
do
get
this,
us-
I would like to go through this list of what did we ask follow-up on?
Oh, okay.
And
Okay,
Jennifer, if you could make sure this minutes, which it was last month, and thank you very much. It helps us
Okay.
remember what.
The follow-up stuff.
so I'm showing for the February work session, we should understand how much increase in revenue that we had last year because we raised out-of-county tuition. We're going to work on the HLC draft. We're going to have the number of total Butler County students in athletics. We'll work on a due process statement, but I guess we won't show, will we? We
No.
won't show.
No.
Okay, and then you'll give us the search process succession plan that you talked
Yeah, I'll
about.
give you some suggestions.
Okay, then for March, on that list, I have that we were going to talk potentially about turf replacement. Potentially, it may not be available. Okay,
But I'll let you know.
okay. Redler signage. I have tuition and fee rate recommendation, look at possibility to offer discount for incoming students, 20-day number, and then 20-day numbers. So whether we get that at the work session, the
Scholarship stuff.
the scholarship stuff, or at least by March. And then the other, we may have the additional information on athletics at the March meeting. However, if we're really busy with the HLC, maybe April, just as long as we have time to discuss that before we do budget. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Because HLC needs to be sent off in March, right?
Right, so that's why I said it has to come first. If we'd have the other time, fine.
Yep.
And then the only other things that I have is just that Jennifer will send us third-party search firm information. And we'll see some examples of the search documents. And then future, I have discussion on BKD or Fortis board liaison in the future. And also this enrollment discussion on solutions, apprenticeships, technology. You know, what are we gonna do? We can't just have she come in and think we're gonna turn around. We've got to make some other changes and we need to discuss those. So
Do you have down Butler 2000?
I did that last time. Now, what
Can I just have, I asked Bill to put something in writing for me and I send it out to you. Is that okay? Or do you want it actually as a discussion item?
No,
It
but
can be,
I think it's worth looking at and discussing. So, I mean, can we go ahead and ask questions? on
so
the email?
maybe March or April?
Mhm.
yeah, if you want to ask questions and stuff, then we can't do it by email. I mean, you can email me directly.
Okay,
I can
that's
get
what
the
I'll do.
information from Bill, you know. And
I really
So,
think that's a jack.
Anything else on our list or future? You asked about something about
Forgetting something.
some kind of teacher numbers or
you want to,
Just 20-day numbers, just see now.
just 20th day. Nothing else? You didn't have an email that had something to do with numbers? I'll look.
I don't know.
And I'll send it to you guys if I find it. Okay, anything else for follow-up? No? Okay, now I'd take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Nobody wants to move.
I moved to adjourn.
Thank you.
I'll second. I don't know if it needs a
Trustee
second.
Good?
Yes.
Trustee Brungart?
Yes.
Trustee Rhodes?
Yes.
Trustee Jolly?
Yes.
Trustee Hueslick?
Yes.
Trustee Shear?
Yes.
Trustee Smith?
Yes.
8:10, thank you.
Does Jennifer have anything she wants to share?